I got one last thing to say, and I'm dead serious when I say this. I genuinely, and Maddie genuinely believes we were put on earth to do exactly what we're doing now. We love doing this. We love meeting new people, and it just gets us so freaking excited. We think you as family, and we love you all. So, at the base and the heart of Midlife Crisis, not gonna lie, it's Mikey G and Maddie Mintz. And why it is because over 30 years ago, I met this crazy SOB at the 4th grade bus stop. I swear to you, when I first laid eyes on this dude, he was perpendicular to the ground, or not perpendicular, like horizontal to the ground, hanging at a 90-degree off a stop sign. And I was like, what the hell did I just get myself into? And since that, we had a budding, flourishing relationship, been best friends our whole lives. Obviously, life got in the way. You go to college, you get married, you start businesses, things happen. Fittingly enough, our midlife crisis brought us back together, hence the name. We're older than most people in this space, but we found NFTs about a year ago, and then we said, you know what, we're really gonna create a company. As we get more connected, as we go into the metaverse, what we're about to do is meeting new people, having real raw conversations. We think it's going to become a lost art. So we're here to make that happen, to bring it all to you, and to help you expand, learn, and grow. And we came up with a very simple mission statement. That mission statement is to bring back the lost art of genuine human connection. And I got one last thing to say, and I'm dead serious when I say this. I genuinely, and Maddie genuinely believes we were put on earth to do exactly what we're doing now. We love doing this. We love meeting new people, and it just gets us so freaking excited. We think you as family, and we love you all. So, at the base and the heart of Midlife Crisis, not gonna lie, it's Mikey G and Maddie Mintz. And why it is because over 30 years ago, I met this crazy SOB at the 4th grade bus stop. I swear to you, when I first laid eyes on this dude, he was perpendicular to the ground, or not perpendicular, like horizontal to the ground, hanging at a 90-degree off a stop sign. And I was like, what the hell did I just get myself into? And since that, we had a budding, flourishing relationship, been best friends our whole lives. Obviously, life got in the way. You go to college, you get married, you start businesses, things happen. Fittingly enough, our midlife crisis brought us back together, hence the name. We're older than most people in this space, but we found NFTs about a year ago, and then we said, you know what, we're really gonna create a company. As we get more connected, as we go into the metaverse, what we're about to do is meeting new people, having real raw conversations. We think it's going to become a lost art. So we're here to make that happen, to bring it all to you, and to help you expand, learn, and grow. And we came up with a very simple mission statement. That mission statement is to bring back the lost art of genuine human connection. And I got one last thing to say, and I'm dead serious when I say this. I genuinely, and Maddie genuinely believes we were put on earth to do exactly what we're doing now. Whoa, what up, folks? Midlife Crisis crew here. We got an awesome ass night ahead of us. I am so excited. Super hype project during the crazy days. There's a lot of reminiscing of Hape. I remember DM and David trying to get him on the show, but he was running around with a chicken with his head cut off just like me. But damn, we're back. We've got some of the OGs just holding it down. Welcome to the show, everybody. Thanks for stopping by. Thank you for chatting. Oh, we even got some YouTube people. This is awesome. Maddie, how you doing, man? I'm freaking amped, as you can tell.
Dude, I mean, you're always amped. That's a very low bar for you, but I am excited. I can tell you're excited though. You're definitely fired up. Dude, it's been great. I've been super busy, as you know, getting ready. I got a move coming up, and I'm basically pulling 3 jobs at the current little window. So little window of busy time, and this is my fun time. This is my relax, get to do what I enjoy doing, and I'm excited, man. Life is good. Getting the workouts in, still staying healthy, so no complaints at all. And finally starting to get like that first day when you notice after daylight savings where it doesn't seem like it's dark immediately. You know what I mean? Like you walk outside a little bit later and it's like, "Ooh, the sun's still out," and it's kind of nice. That was today for me. It's always a nice day.
Yeah. I mean, listen, it's been raining like hell in Southern California, which does not happen because it's usually 70 degrees, sunny and beautiful every day. But it's been, dude, it was 38 degrees this morning. The rest of the world uses
Dang.
Celsius. I don't know what that is in Celsius, but Dave and Clement, let me tell you, it's cold. It's
It's
real
about 3
cold.
degrees. It's about 3
It's
degrees
about
Celsius.
3 degrees. That doesn't happen in Southern California. So
Yep.
I'm excited to get back to the beach in the sunny weather because that's why I pay to live here, and that's what I miss. I don't want to be at the beach in
It's
38
true.
degrees weather, so
That's true.
I'm paying a premium. But with that being said, Maddie, I think you got some awesome information
Yep.
to introduce our guest and kick this show off. I'm super pumped for this conversation.
Dude, so yeah, I mean, this has been, as you said, this conversation's been a long time coming. We've been waiting to have this conversation, and I love what we got here for a breakdown. So we got David and we got Clement, and
Nice.
interesting backgrounds here. There's some major similarities, but also some differences. We'll start with the differences. So David's background's broadcasting, did some stuff with HBO. He was in that realm. Whereas Clement was advertising. He was putting ads together, trying to sell that stuff where David works for broadcasting, right? What I think is wild though is that they morphed together like a Power Ranger and started a business 10 years ago called Offset, right? 2D and 3D animation studio, and they started putting in the work. And did it pay off? Yes. They now have an insane resume. I'm going to list a few of the people they have done work for. They make very high-end commercials. This is just a few names. They listed so many I couldn't write them down fast because I'm old and I use a pen. But McDonald's, right off the bat, there's some juice behind that. Nike, Adidas, L'Oreal, Jim Beam. And so, in fact, Jim Beam, you got a little mug already representing. It's full of coffee, folks. Don't worry, no pressure. But
It's
yeah, I
okay
mean,
if it's not full of coffee. I mean,
and if
we're
it's
here.
not, yeah, no judgment either way.
We're
We
here to
do what you
party.
want. Um, although it's like early there, isn't it? What time is it?
It's
It's
10
currently
a.m.
in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
10 a.m. I mean, it's not really early,
Yeah.
but
So I
That's
mean,
not
there
early.
might
That's
be a
drinking time.
little bit of judgment if that was Jim Beam, but we all got to do what we got to do. But yeah, bottom line is they have built a very, very successful business around this, and so very uniquely qualified. I'm excited to talk to them as we get into the stuff about the projects in Web3 because they're in a very unique position to be in this space for sure. And then just as a fun fact, both of these people were competitive dancers,
That's pretty
which is
awesome.
wild because,
it's a long
most
time.
of the time you hear somebody growing up and they're like, I played soccer or whatever, T-ball or something. Nope, competitive dancers. And they learned a lot from that. That's where they get their
Excited
work
to
ethic
talk
from.
to them.
I also think it's funny, a little tidbit about David is David said that he grew up as an introvert, all right? And this is wild. He goes from introvert, realizes, okay, I need to change this. I got to be able to function and like get out there and mingle with people. Well, he's done a pretty good job because he's got 380,000 followers on Twitter. So not bad for an introvert. Just want to say that. Not bad at all. I think they're making things happen, guys. Welcome to the show. We're happy to have you.
Thanks for having us, guys. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
It's a great way to
absolutely.
start the day.
Hell yeah, man. We're going
I
to
like
have fun
football,
with it.
like, yeah.
Dude, I didn't realize you had that many followers on Twitter. That's insane. I think you beat out Hate Beast, bro. I mean, that's impressive that you got that many followers.
That's
But
no joke. That is
Yeah.
no joke.
That is no joke. But with that, man, I'm gonna start with you, David. Which AKA David is Gentle Whale, if you don't know that. Here he is in the flesh, and I'm pretty excited to ask this question. And that is world famous midlife crisis question. And we're gonna start a little bit differently since we have two of you. But please tell us how you got to the seat you're sitting in today. Let's start with Star Wars Episode 1 and give us a good deep dive on your childhood. And then we'll toss it over to Clement.
Right, cool. Thanks so much for having us. I mean, we're really excited. We connected since like mid last year, I guess.
Yeah.
And we didn't have a chance to do it together. Finally, we are here.
Yeah, absolutely.
For the age range, what are you looking at for childhood?
Where you're comfortable with, but I wouldn't be mad if you started around 5 years
me.
old.
Yeah, just some of just what we're looking for is some of the highlights. Like, what are some of the influences you remember as a child? Maybe some memories that maybe were critical in how you are and you grew up. I mean, you mentioned already that you were introverted.
Yeah.
Was that something that was always there? Were you the kid that was quiet? Get into some of that, and then how things went as you went through school and into higher education. How'd that go?
Yep.
So give us start low.
Yeah, I think growing up, my brother has a lot of influence to me because he is 9 years older than me. So when I was 5, he was already like 14. And it was
Yeah.
a period of time where he introduced to me a lot of video games, board games, like Monopoly, Risk. Or at that time there was like Nintendo or Mega Drive. Those were the days that we were playing.
Yes.
And it was crazy, right? There's when we first saw the games on television and playing with the controllers, it was so much fun. And I was playing that for like the whole of my childhood. So I think growing up, a lot of my influence came from games. And I was really good at math. So during our primary school days, which to us, to our system, education system, it is from the age of 7 to 12. We had the primary school. And at that time, I was really good at math. And at that time, I think we shared earlier, I was quite introverted. And this was something that was affecting me a lot because I was always looking up to a lot of people that are very vocal. They are very outspoken.
Yeah.
And they got a lot of attention from a lot of fellow students, fellow friends, and even from teachers, right? So I was always asking myself, why am I so not popular? Why am I so quiet? Why couldn't I speak up a lot more and stand up for myself? And growing up, I always had the impression that I'm not good enough. And that's why I went into like basketball, badminton, because I want to be part of a group. I want to be with friends and all that. However, during our growing up days, then me and Clement, or me, I joined dance because dance is something that is super out of the box. It's super out of my comfort zone. I wanted to join something that is so crazy that I can be on a stage to perform to hundreds and thousands of people and getting out of my comfort zone. and that's what I did. I went to audition. I make sure that
Wow.
I got so uncomfortable. I can feel like my whole body is so nervous and all that. But it made me realize that there's so much potential in me that could be unleashed if I do something so uncomfortable.
Love that, man.
That's how it works. And it becomes a point where in the dance scene, I think Clement will also have a lot of similar experience as well. Being a dancer, you have to work so hard. You have to put in every single hour together. You spend time on yourself to work on the fundamentals, and you have to work really well as a team as well. So you really learn a lot in terms of understanding yourself and understanding to work as a team. And that became a very instrumental part of our career later on, which we didn't realize earlier. But all the fun and all the choreography processes, all the creative processes of the brainstorming and working with the team become such an important aspect of our career later on. Yeah, so that's really a very quick summary of my childhood and where I came from.
Yeah.
I love it, and there's already so many questions in my head.
Gosh.
So many questions in my head.
So, but before we get to questions, I want to expand because your brother was an influence to you. Was he also was because you said you looked at these extroverts and you were wowed by that, and was your brother an introvert or was he an extrovert?
He later on, in the beginning, I thought he was quite extrovert, but I realized that he is also quite introvert. But he can be funny. The things he say can be quite funny and humorous,
Got it.
and that makes him pretty popular.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Got it. So you had somebody you looked up to, and you wanted this. I see. That comes to, now. Let me ask you this: in terms of other family members, was there any kind of like pressure or encouragement to go in a certain direction, to be more artistic, more mathematical, analytical, and good at math, or I think that can also be something there. Did any other, like, whether it be parental influences, also affect you?
Yeah, I mean, growing up, my parents always give me a lot of freedom in terms of what I love to do. But there was a point when I was 15, uh, in school, in the studies grades, I was like the the last second of the whole school. I was so bad at
Mm,
studies that I was the last second position of the whole school.
Ah,
And at 16, we are supposed to get this examination called the O levels, right? Because that will determine whether you're going to the university or whether
right.
you're going to the polytechnic.
Right.
And I was like, oh no, man, I need to work. I need to start working hard. So at
yeah.
16, I was like, okay, every day I'm going to study. I'm going to make it. If not, I'm going to fail in life. And that's what I did. And after 16, thankfully, I managed to pass all my examinations. But I was so afraid of studying that I do not want to pick up a book anymore. And that's why I went into a creative space. I went into a digital media design. It is because due to for my research, I realized that this course doesn't require much studying. I will be
Ah,
drawing, I'll be designing, I'll be doing Photoshop, I'll be doing Adobe creative
Mm,
work, and studying will be at the back of my head.
right.
And
It's
that's
things
that's,
that
that's
you
the reason why
enjoyed.
I went into it.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
that's awesome. And to kind of follow up on that, what I'm really interested in, what is fascinating to me, that at a young age, and this is what the question I'm interested in is, what influenced you at a young age to be an introvert, to be like, you know what, screw this, I'm gonna go start dancing because that's gonna put me out of my comfort zone,
yeah.
right? Like, what in the hell drove you to do that? Because most kids do not have the wherewithal to say, I'm going to go do that because I need to figure out how to get out of my comfort zone. I'd love to hear that story.
Yeah, during my school days, secondary school days, so that was like 12 to 16,
Mm-hmm.
there was a particular group of people that is very popular, and they are Indians, but they incorporate cultural Indian dance and hip hop dance.
Okay.
So every single year they will have performances and all that, and when they dance, they really look really good and charming, and that gives me an impression like, wow, these guys, they're not the best looking people. They are not the best people with high grades and everything. But when they dance, when they perform, it brings a different side of them. And
Mm.
eventually during our what dinner and dance, like the students, uh, what do you guys call like the end of the year party? Then
Like a
D&D?
like a
D&D,
like a
yes,
prom,
like a
Like
prom, yeah, correct.
like a prom
yeah,
is what they call it. Like the high school prom or
a
the school
dance.
dance, right?
Yeah, and then the dancer that I know became the prom king.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, wow, that's like I want to be that guy too. I want to be like that. That's why following
Okay,
that, I
gotcha.
decided I should
So
get out of my comfort zone.
yeah, that's really interesting because, I think probably when you saw that, your first thought as a kid wasn't, this is what I need to do to get out of my comfort zone. You were still kind of, and I've never heard somebody say this, but dance was a way to allow you to be someone else, right? Like when you were on the dance floor, you weren't a nerd or you weren't an introvert. You were doing something cool that people are interested in. Is that about right? Did I encapsulate that right?
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And especially, it's very interesting how your body can move with the music.
Mm-hmm.
I I, I learned to love music a lot at that time because I realized that when you put on your headphones, you can be in a zone where you don't care about anybody. You are just in your zone. You can be in the flow. And you just dance and you can just move, and just be stress free, right? And that becomes a very it's a very important aspect. Even in work, when you're doing designing, you can get into the flow, and just hours just went past like that. In dance, it's the same. Right? When you love your music and you're just practicing, just moving, and very quickly hours just passed.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of feeling we need to enjoy when we work as well. If not, we are constantly in huge stress and all that.
And you bring up yet another fascinating topic, which is flow. Multiple books have been written about this. Lots of famous people have talked about how to get to the flow state. The question I have for you is, what does your flow state look like? Is it when you're designing? Is it when you're dancing? Or is it a process of, my flow state is I felt like I started working and then 4 hours later I came out of it and I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Like, what does that look like to you?
Yeah, I guess when you're in flow state, sometimes you forgot about lunch, you forgot about dinner, and that comes with. I think I read some of the books as well. It's about getting involved in the work that you enjoy, has challenges, but it's not too difficult that it stops you from progressing. So once you're in a state where, okay,
Ooh.
you're enjoying it, yet you have some challenges, but it's not too difficult, and you can constantly be in the flow and constantly be improving and just keep working on it. And that's what I really enjoy,
Yeah. That's interesting. I haven't heard somebody say about that, like the not too difficult part, because there is something to be said about doing something that's enjoyable, that you're good at, but then you also have to balance being challenged and being able to do that for a long period of time. So I like that take on it, man. And you gave
that's
us.
why
Go ahead.
just to add on, that's why the very important of having a big goal, but you need to chop it up into slices and pieces so that it's easy for you to absorb, right? Yeah, that's why you need to. If it's too
Ooh.
big and you feel so stressed about it, then okay, you need to chop it up, okay, and make it into a smaller task, and now you can get into flow better, going into one by one.
I like that.
Yeah.
Can you give and to add on to that, can you give us a life example of you chopping a goal up? Does anything come to mind? Maybe you can relate it to Web3 or something else you've done in your professional career, because I think it would be interesting to hear people hear how you break up a bigger goal or project.
I think in the process of our career, there are a lot of times where projects got too huge for us to even visualize how to do it because we had never done it before. So, for example, during our early days with Clement, it's just two of us, and then we have a big client that I can't remember the exact names of the client. Or let's say Google came to us and said that okay,
Right.
they want to create a insane 3D animation. It's 1 minute video. It's going to be crazy. Both of us have not done it before, and then Clement, right?
Clement's
Then we were
laughing.
like,
He's like, I remember that.
Those tough days, man.
tough days, man. Then I, being myself, I like for me, I'm more introvert, right? So I tend to overthink a lot of things. Okay, what if it fails? What if it doesn't work? I've not done it before.
Right.
But Clement will be the one that, hey man, hey bro, let's just do it.
Yeah.
We can find the answers, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and we will be going into the process of okay, this is so tough. Let's break it down. Okay, what do we need to do to create this insane 1 minute animation, and who we might need to come to bring on board to make this happen?
Yeah.
And that's why we break it down. Okay, we need to do the storyboard first. And then we will find, okay, who are the people that have the expertise of these areas that we don't have?
Right.
And then how do we split the job between me and Clement, and so on and so forth. And once we have all these steps in place, it became easier to digest and easier for us to get into a flow state.
No, I love it, man. Great explanation.
I like it.
Maddie, you want to add something? I have one more question.
For sure. I do. It's funny that it's like that old adage, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right?
Yeah.
And that's just, I think that's very relatable. I just have one quick question. I agree with Mike. I love how at a young age we're like, I need to get uncomfortable. I agree with also Mike that I think maybe you were just going after what you saw as like popularity or something that was working and duplicated it. But it's really cool that you have looked back and recognized that was you getting out of a comfort zone. So my question is simple. Is that something you continue to do? Do you find yourself still looking for ways to get uncomfortable even today?
Ooh, great
Yeah, for
question.
sure. I love how you guys ask all the questions.
Thank
I
you.
think it makes us think a lot deeper into how we become who we are today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's why I'm always very thankful for Clement being a co-founder.
Mm-hmm.
I think that growing in the beginning of the career, I realized there are a lot of flaws that I have. That actually, when I work with Clement, we complement a lot of things that
Yeah.
that we plan and do. And during the whole 10 years that we worked together, there were so many uncomfortable situations that we have to be put in. For example, we have to constantly meet with new clients, we have to pitch, we have to uh, come up with new innovations to make things better, how to in the beginning we always think about, okay, both of us are in a very small country, Singapore.
Mhm.
How can we put the little red dot and be known to the world?
Right.
And over the years we did manage to do that people start to recognize our work from all over the world, and that's what we really enjoy. And but I think entrepreneurship in itself is very uncomfortable. You're put in, you have to wear different hats. Sometimes you have to be doing the business development. Sometimes you have to do the finance part of things. Sometimes you have to do the HR part of things. And
Sometimes it's HR.
Yeah, we wear every
Right.
hat.
Yeah.
so
Yep.
yeah, and every process is so uncomfortable.
Yep.
But I think if you have partners that work together and had your back and said that, hey, it's tough, man, but let's just figure and do it
Yeah.
together. It becomes so much easier.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Power to.
Dude, great. Yeah. I mean, you have great insight and great responses, and I appreciate you giving us props to how we ask questions, because this is what fascinates us, right? Because your story is going to resonate different than the last guest that was on. But Maddie and I literally just had this conversation. It's like, there's just two of us and we're trying to build a media company. Well, that requires video. I mean, you like we said, I went to design school. I've been in video, but like we all know how freaking long it takes to edit a video, right? It's
It takes forever.
forever. And like
Yeah.
like our time is better spent doing this and meeting new people and doing the networking and the CEO type of stuff. And it's just like we started listing all of the people we actually need. Meanwhile, we're making not a lot of money. So it's like now you got to figure out how to solve that problem, right?
Yeah.
And you just made, you said it in your own way, which I think is interesting. Maddie, do you have any comments to what David said before I ask my next question?
No, I think everything is. I thank you for answering that, and it is really cool seeing the similarities. Mike and I work in a similar dynamic, and we told before, we're kind of a yin yang relationship, and I'm already seeing that coming together, and I'm excited for Clement to get a chance. But
Yeah.
Mike, you said you had one more question.
One question before we go to Clement, because Clement, I'm excited to hear your childhood story as well. Any other thing, and if you don't have an answer to this is fine, but you said your brother was an influence. Anything about your family or your upbringing in your home that impacted you that you want to add to?
Yeah, I think growing up, I became quite a workaholic, and part of the reason is also influenced by my father.
Mm.
I think during those days, my father worked really hard to provide food for the family, and when he came home at about 5 or 6 p.m., he would have dinner and he would be asleep by 7 to 8 p.m. And then he would go to work at 4 a.m. So that's what happens every single day.
Right.
So the person that takes care of me most of the time is my mom. That's why I'm very close with my mom. And I always see that, okay, being a father figure, I need to work really hard. I need to be the one providing the family and all that. And I guess that's what influenced me in terms of a very single focused on making things work, making work the most important priority of my life. That brings that causes good and bad things. Work wise, I'm very focused, but at the same time, I also tend to neglect a lot of other areas, because in life we need to also take care of relationships, we need to take care of finances, we need to take care of spirituality and all that. And I think this is something that I'm constantly working on myself. How
Right.
can I have a more balanced life, per
Oh,
se? Yeah.
you're speaking my language, man. We talk about balance a lot in this show.
Yeah.
And we've come to, because Matt has built multi-million-dollar businesses, right? And I've worked hard in the corporate world, but I still didn't own something, right? Like he owned a business. You guys have owned business. I could go home and not have that constant worry. And I was dead fast on, if you don't have balance, it's all over. And I still agree on that, but Matt has at least gotten me to evolve that into the thought process that you can be unbalanced. You just can't do it forever, right? There are points when you're building a company that you might need to grind for, let's say, 4 to 6 months. But if you do it for a year, like Dex from Phantom Network, it results in passing out face down and his girlfriend finding him in a panic because he's so exhausted, right? So you need to find that. I'd love to hear, David, and I promise this will be the last question, but how have you learned to acquire balance? Are there any practices or things that you work on? Because I think we all actively work at it, especially all of us, because we're trying to build companies and do things in addition to everything else in our life. What are some of your tactics?
So I think bring that back. There are a few instances or a few things that happened in our career that I saw that okay, maybe we need some balance in life. I think one of the most important thing that I saw was Clement having a first baby.
Mm-hmm.
when,
That'll
when I
change
saw
your world.
I'm not married, but when I saw how Clement being such a hardworking person, and suddenly when he got married and have a first kid, things change. Not that he becomes less hardworking, but he's still as hardworking. But the priorities change. The priorities in terms of making work a lot more effective, a lot more efficient, and at the same time putting a lot of effort to give time to the son, to play with them, to take care
Right.
of them. And when I saw a fatherly figure of him, I saw it is not something that I would have expected for the past 10 years.
Right.
It's a very different side of him.
Yeah. No,
like,
that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah,
I would have not imagined him being a father, like a good father. But when I see, whoa, like he really cares. The soft side of him came out.
What are your thoughts there,
That's
Clement?
really-
I mean, definitely having a kid would definitely change me. I mean, like, before having a kid, I was like, focused a lot on work, and every day, me and Debbie will be late at office, and just doing whatever it takes, right? But now, I mean, with a kid, I mean, it changes a little bit of my perspective of how I see life. I mean, I do stuff so that I can provide a better life for them,
Yeah.
and how we do that does not mean it does not equate that we work lesser, but it's a little bit more effective.
Right.
So so yeah, I mean, we will try to use our time a lot better.
Ooh, I
And I think,
like that.
yeah, I mean, you can be working for like 12 hours, right? But or maybe some people, if you work smart, you could do 4 hours and you still have the same results. So at the end of the day, it's just like, how you actually work smarter in the whole entire perspective of things. And yeah, I mean, I have 2 kids right now, and I'm still in shock sometimes. Like, early in the morning when I wake up, yeah, like making so much noise.
Yeah.
But that's just part of life. There is something that is very special about that. So yeah,
Yeah. And
it changed me.
and I would say one thing I always tell my wife, because we are supposed to be having a kid here in the future now as well, and I know it's drastically. I tell Matt Malta, we talk about this often. I'm like, bro, you got me for about like another 8 months, and then shit is really gonna change. And so like we have a defined runway where we need to get things up and running, pretty monetized and going, right?
Yeah.
But the one thing that I say all the time too is, even with the kids, right? Everything really is temporary, right? If you have a bigger goal and a reason to get through the screaming kid in the morning, your kid's not going to be screaming 4 years old for forever, right? And so if you have that perspective, I think that helps get you through it a lot as well. Just
Yep,
an extra
definitely.
thought on there. And so
Can I also just add one point?
absolutely.
Sure.
I think there's this book called The One Thing. I think it's a great book. I love that book. Essentially, what it means is in everything you do, there's always one super important thing that we need to focus on. And once we do that right, everything will fall into place.
Ooh.
And one of the concepts that he teaches or he shares is probably it's very hard for us to balance life, but we have to go to the extremes. So let's say when we are working, we give our 100%, and while we are playing with our kids or while we are doing our leisure time, we give our 100% or spend time with our family and all that.
Right.
Always be at 100% of the extremes rather than always being in the 50% all the time. You will not get the best of both worlds anyway. Yeah.
I love that. And I actually read The One Thing, but I forgot most of the book. I'm going to have to revisit that because I remember it being a good book. And thank you for refreshing my memory on that. I actually think I have the Audible because I can't read. If I do like physical books, I fall asleep in like 5 minutes. But audiobooks, man, I love me an audiobook. So I'll have to revisit that.
For
but
sure.
Awesome
Dude, just listen to
insight.
the blinks, Mike.
Oh, the blinks. That's another good thing
Bro.
too.
That's what it is, man. Blinkist.
Have you
it's a
heard?
winner.
Have you guys heard
This
of
is
the
the book, right?
Blinkist?
Yeah. Yep, that's right.
Yeah. Have you
Yeah,
heard of the
Blinkist is
Blinkist?
dude, when you're busy, I mean, this is a free ad for Blinkist right now because we don't get paid from them at all. But basically what it is, it's an app you download and they take all of those type of books on leadership, sales, self-development, all that stuff. And they call them blinks, but they boil it down to like 15-minute readable bullet points. And they're very easy to read. And so once you do that, you can just flip through it with your thumb, or you can hear it audio, but the whole thing takes 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So you can summarize a book. I like to do that because I get so many book recommendations. Man, I can listen to it. I'm like, oh, okay, I do want to read that, and I'll go read it. Or I'll be like, okay, I think I found out what needs to be found out in this book and save myself some time. But anyway, Blinkist, good little app for you.
Awesome. Well, Clement, you have a tough act to follow up on Star Wars Episode 1.
I'll do my best.
But same
Yeah.
question to you, man. How'd you get the seat you're sitting in today? Let's do the childhood first and kind of get to the when you start university and your professional career. Cannot wait to hear it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, David set a real high bar for this. I'll do my best to catch up, right? So, when I was young, I mean, I came from a family that like they are very supportive in whatever we do. My dad always tells me like, you know, I'm brought up in a world where I'm always told that I'm special. And so I think that's a very good sort of like trait, right? And
Right.
that is like what I often teach my kids too, because I want them to feel like they are different and they're special. So I was like a really like honestly, I was a very studious kid until like 10 years old. I was
Yeah.
like, you know, top of my class and everything all the time. I was like, okay, my dad tells me to study, I'll do it. But until a point where I got exposed to video games.
Oh, yeah.
And that changed my life, man. That totally
Uh-huh.
changed my life. So what game that I played back then was Final Fantasy VII.
Oh my God, you are speaking to
right,
our
right.
heart, bro. Can I tell you
And,
the
I'm so
amount
happy right
of
now.
time Matt and I spent eating pizza, drinking Mountain Dew, and playing Final Fantasy in his basement?
Dude.
Oh my God.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
Just
back then there was books and everything to sort of like, you know, the teachers you how to cross the quest and everything. So that was
Mhm.
great times, right? And and when I was like 10, I got very, you know, I got really addicted playing StarCraft and Warcraft.
Oh my God,
Right,
bro.
Oh,
StarCraft, right? StarCraft 1 back then
bro.
was like the bomb, right? And
The StarCraft
so
was mind blowing.
Amazing.
yeah, it was crazy. So I was like, you know, when that happened, all my grades started to fail, and like my dad, although he was a little bit disappointed, he wouldn't like, you know, tell me off. He would just say like, you know, just he doesn't really expect me to get like great like flying colors, right? He's just like, you know, just make sure you pass your grades and then get to secondary school, etc. So but you know what? I was like, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna study and just try to make it happen, right? And I was still playing StarCraft back then, and all the way till I'm like 14, and then Warcraft 3 came out, and I like, you know, I got really excited about all these games. I think that exposed me to like, you know, a certain realm where I can be in. When I was playing StarCraft or Warcraft,
Right.
it feels very different. I'm really like, I feel like I'm in a different world. And like back then, although the graphics now that you look back, it doesn't look that good anymore. But when you're playing it, the
Oh.
cinematics and stuff that came out was like, wow, this is like the next level, right?
Right.
And and that was like so I barely make it to my secondary school, which I was like, that's the truth, man. I was like actually doing really well, and yeah. So so in the entire from that happened on, I actually got very involved in like the digital world. Like I started creating I'm not sure if you guys know this, like IRC. MRRC, there's this chat thing. So so basically,
Oh,
yeah, so I
wait,
started
you talking about like it was like
IRC?
the competitor of
IRC days
AIM?
or the ICQ days. Do you guys remember that?
There we go. I got you now. Once Matt said, "Oh,
I
I'm
was
with
like,
you."
so, yeah, so when I was in my school, I started creating such channel and started being a community. And I was like the channel owner and everything. So I love to sort of like challenge myself in a lot of ways. Like when I was playing games or doing stuff like that. I love to be, if I want to do it, I would be the best out of it. Because
Right.
like maybe that's like what my dad, he has taught me across the years. If you want to do something, you do to the maximum of it. If not, just don't do it at all. So I mean, fast forward there, and I was like, past my secondary school days, and I was in my polytechnic, and then again I barely made it to school again, because I actually joined the dance thing with and the reason why I joined dance is because then again I felt like, wow, they're really cool. I want to be part of it, right? And they seem to have strong community behind it. I would love to be part of it. And there's something that I know I really grind all day to be the best again. And like but then again, when that happens, my grades again fell.
Right. Right.
As usual, right? But then again, I managed to graduate, and things like, and those are the things that I feel like in my life I feel I've always wanted to do something very different. I often make myself go out of my way to be different, to be like, if I can do it, I will try my best to be the best. So and when I started my very first job, so what happened was, like, I was studying programming, computer science. And when I started my very first job, I started as a front-end developer, making banners. Like those banners that you see on Yahoo and Google and stuff,
Hey,
right?
I made a
The
lot of
most boring
those
things
too.
ever. So and that was like all what I did all day, right? And some very very basic microsites. And I want to do something more for my websites, and I want to do something more for my front end. So I went to learn After Effects, and now I wanted I wanted to just make really cool animation for my website. So I started watching a tutorial every day to sort of like follow through how people do After Effects, and how just keyframe stuff and everything.
Right.
So on a day-to-day basis, when I'm going back home from my work, I will be on my earphones and just watching a tutorial. And then when I'm home, I'll just try to replicate the work again and again for, I think, close to years, man. So and back then I saw, I think you guys should know this artist called People.
Yep.
People, yeah.
Yeah.
So I was following him like close to, he started doing his everyday, sorry, I think more than 14 years ago. But so back then, when I was looking at his work close to a decade ago, I was like, wow, this guy is amazing. I want to be like him someday. And like I follow his work on an everyday basis, and I will try to replicate his work in Cinema 4D or whatsoever. Or he was very generous to sort of like give his source file out so that we could study his work.
Right.
And that to me was like super inspirational, because this guy is so generous, right? And I and to this day, I look up to him a lot, because like he sort of changed my life. And the tutorials that I watched, this guy called Andrew Kramer, sort of like changed my life.
Yeah.
Almost like 360 degrees. So I was given like so I was like at work, and most of my peers were programmers, and they was like saying like, hey, why are you doing design, man? It's not gonna work. No programmer has ever been has gone to the design realm and make it.
Right.
And I was like, I'm gonna try to make it, right? So I always like when I was in my advertising agency, I just hope that I will be given a chance to sort of create sort of like an animation piece for
Right.
a client,
So
and I was
hold
like,
on real quick, because we're getting to your career, and you gave us a
yeah,
lot of good younger stuff,
Oh, yeah.
starting
yeah,
with
Oh yeah.
video games, which is
right.
awesome, right? And then your dad. But so other than your dad being, I love that he seemed like he was genuine, caring, wanted you to succeed, and gave you the freedom to do it. Is there anything else, sisters, mother, or any other, like, I don't know, memories that you had when you were growing up that think impacted the way you think today?
I mean, I have a brother, and I mean, my mom takes care of me. My mom works really hard too, so she's like, she works like on a day job, and at the end of the day, she will cook for us in the morning, at night, and even clean our clothes, clean the house, etc. I
Yeah.
think it's really really tough. So you're like actually doing a few jobs in a day, right? And
Yeah, for sure.
I always look up to her in a way where I feel like she's really really a strong woman, because like um she doesn't really show how tired she is, although she is. I would think she is, because like
Right.
as a father now,
Yeah.
as a dad right now, I'll think like, oh my god, I'm doing this stuff plus I can only imagine like how much more work my mom was actually having on back then. So I definitely think like like once I became a parent, I started realizing how difficult is it to like appreciate my parents a lot more, right?
Yeah. Right.
And
Mhm.
I have a brother. He's like super supportive in whatever we do. Like he's always a person that gives in a lot to me, because I'm the youngest in the family. So
Uh-huh.
if I would like a video game or whatsoever, he would save up money so that he could buy something for me and stuff like that. So I sort of grew up in a very supportive family. So
Right.
and that like helped me to sort of like be able to just have a lot of freedom to do what I love to do. Yeah.
Yeah. And do you think that freedom and being able to explore helped your creativity? How do you think that impact you as the person you are today? Like, looking back, did that freedom help you um become real creative, try more things out that you didn't like? Any thoughts there?
Yeah. Definitely I'll say yes, because like there to not have any like boundaries is where I feel like creativity was saw, right? It would just come out. And um definitely like when I was studying, I was following the system a lot. Like because like I never loved study, because
Right.
like we study science, etc. I never had great grades, and that to me I felt like I don't want to be in the system. I want to do something that I really love. And I couldn't find a lot of stuff that I love besides video games. And once I started learning animation, actually that's where I feel like that there's like epiphany for me, because like when I was studying computer science, I feel like I was like I did it because my parents want me to do it. I had to get a degree. I had to go through the studies, etc. But that's, I mean, I wasn't bad at it, but I'm not like, it's not really my passion. So
Mhm.
Right.
I
Right.
and when I open up After Effects and learn the stuff that I can do with that program, that is where I feel like, wow, that's like the whole world to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right. That makes sense. Maddie, anything to
Lem
add to this
Yeah.
conversation?
So yeah, I'll rewind a little bit, but you were just talking about the After Effects, and if I recall, you said basically your goal was to basically you were watching a video a day to try to learn it, right?
Yep.
What were you watching that on?
Ah, so what I'll do is I'll download the videos on my laptop and watch it. So what's good? What back then the YouTube or internet wasn't that great, right? So
Right.
it was like a decade ago.
Yeah,
YouTube was not the
that's why I
best.
was like, I'm just genuinely curious, like where were you? Because
So you had to
now
download the
people hear
videos.
that, right? People hear that and they're like, oh, he just went on YouTube. But like, I was thinking, I
It
don't think he
isn't.
was going on
It
YouTube
wasn't
for
that easy,
this.
right?
It wasn't as
Yeah,
easy,
yeah. So
man.
so where did you find this collection of like educational content
Yeah.
first? That's my first question.
So the very first thing you could like watch is Video Copilot. I mean, goes way back into like I think like his tutorial goes way back to like 15 years ago.
Right.
And
It's a
Okay.
lifesaver.
Yeah, he's like a legend in like the whole entire motion design world.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay.
if you ever if anybody does motion design, they probably would know him. So he goes from
Okay.
the basics of After Effects to like some really really hardcore stuff. So yeah, I mean back then and to think like 10 years ago, the computers was not exactly the fastest.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
When you had to follow a tutorial, you had to just pause it and then try to do it, wait for a few seconds or a minute, and then But yeah, I mean, right now it's a totally different world.
Right. No, I
Wow.
love it.
Okay. Because what I think is interesting about that is that, like, if there had been, instead of computer science, if what you were studying in school was design, After Effects, computer graphics, like essentially the thing you were doing on your side to learn yourself, if you had been studying that in school, do you think it would have been reversed? Then you would have been like, okay, this is what I want to study because it was your passion. Do you think that would have maybe changed the way you viewed your academics? Or do you think that it's school is one type of learning, but then there's like the real world learning, which you kind of get from these videos? Which
Mhm.
is it?
Good question.
Yeah, you're definitely right, man. If I were to study like animation in school, I may not appreciate it that much because it's like the knowledge is actually given to me. And but what I love about doing the things that I watch on YouTube is because like I think there's a sort of like a challenge that I feel like that really excites me because I feel I can conquer
Mm,
that realm, right? And
that's cool.
maybe the grades may change, but but you're definitely right because I may not really appreciate it that much because then again it's in the system. Yeah.
Got it. So you kind of saw, kind of like when you saw those dancers, you saw something on the outside, you're like, I want to be a part of that. And
Yep.
that's what drew your heart and it pulled you because it seems like you find something you love and it pulls you away from school. And it's not that it's school, it's just that it's like the thing you're told you're supposed to do versus the thing that you're passionate about and chasing. And so there's something about that. And that's interesting to me because that's what pulled me away from engineering into entrepreneurship, right? And I feel like there seems to be a theme with that when people get pulled away. What do you think?
Right. You're definitely right. I mean, maybe you're the first few person who actually told me that, but it's very interesting because yeah, I love like you say, man, I love the feeling of like not being in the system and just doing the things that I think I love, and then I can
Mhm.
sort of like conquer it in my own ways, in my own terms, and
Yeah,
when I reach there, it feels like there's a sense of achievement, and that's what I think I'm trying to look for.
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Dude, I
Yeah.
I
love
love
that
it.
insight.
So I have a fun question for you. Mike and I talk about this all the time, and I'm sure this is just what happens when we get old, right? You hear old people say things like, "Man, if I had this when I was your age." But can we just acknowledge for 1 second the way you talked about Final Fantasy VII
Oh,
and the way you talked about StarCraft?
Yep.
Man, and I know somebody is going to play in chat the world's smallest violin, but could you imagine if we had Twitch when we were kids?
Wow, we'll be rich, baby.
Yeah, I mean, because my same thing, man. We would sit there and like, do you remember in Final Fantasy VII when you got the mimic source, or I'm sorry, morph, the morphs materia,
Yeah, the material.
and
Yeah.
it
yeah.
and you could farm the sources by finding certain enemies.
Yep.
Mike and I would sit there for a weekend and just grind the same enemies because each source permanently raised your stat by 1. And we
Yeah.
would like get our stats to some just like legendary level that was no one would ever be able to achieve just to do it. And it's like we just sit there on the same screen and man, that fight music when I hit Final Fantasy VII, it's like I immediately hear that. It's just we've heard it a billion times, you know?
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
everything
Right.
swirls. You got it, right? And just it's wow. And same thing with StarCraft. We played
Yeah.
so much StarCraft, and it's just anyway. Could you just imagine? I mean, if there was Twitch, it would have been so different.
I mean,
Yeah.
It always
literally,
makes me think about it.
that's why we started streaming on Twitch because we were like, dude, if we'd be millionaires if we could have streamed our basement playing Mario Kart on Super Nintendo. And Maddie and I are like
I know.
having our midlife crisis, hence the name of our company. And we're like, well, let's just start
Yep.
streaming video games. We like that, right? Because
Yep.
we streamed video games before we ever did this talk show.
Yeah.
I think Maddie brings this up, but I wanted to like add on to that. Well, there's two questions. Well, two thoughts. My first thought is, and I love your response and reaction to this. I believe that I love mundane, grindy type work because of grinding XP in Final Fantasy. What are your thoughts on that? Do you agree with that statement or disagree? Because I think Final Fantasy trained me for fun, grindy work, and I don't mind it. Where other people are like, fuck this, I don't want to do it.
So like okay, so for Final Fantasy, right, back then, I think that's before StarCraft, right? And
Right.
like
Yeah.
those were the days where grinding to me was like exciting. But when I played StarCraft or Warcraft, it actually changed a little bit of perspective of how I see games because back that was before the Dota days, and it was just purely strategic, right?
Right.
You build a silo or whatever, and that itself gives me a lot of like different permutations of how I could play a game.
Ooh,
And then that's
okay.
where I feel like, now if you tell me to go back to a farming game, yeah, I may think twice because I can't do something again and again for a long time anymore.
Yeah. So
Right.
see, yeah, like
Right.
see your response, you have evolved. Not me. You know what I want to do? I want to play the new Call of Duty and get the Orion camo, which consists of the most mundane gun shooting grind in the entire world. Like, there's no reason I should be spending hours of my life doing a long shot from 50 meters with
Yeah.
a sniper rifle so I can get some stupid
Yeah.
ass camo. But my mind is at peace when I do that. I don't know why.
Yeah,
Interesting.
so at least like how I find peace in the mundane things that I go through. So like because we do work and we end really late sometimes, and what I
Right.
pretty much I do is I watch like Friends or How I Met Your Mother again and again and again. So it's like grinding
Okay.
again, right?
Okay.
So, yeah, the minds like switch off, but you just like watch there. You know what's gonna happen next, but you know
Right.
you're just doing it. Yeah.
Okay, so
Yep.
you
Yep.
have it through TV.
All right.
My mother-in-law literally turns on Friends every night when she goes to sleep. She's probably watched every episode 100 times. Maddie, go ahead.
Yeah. Yep.
So here's
That's
my
what I do,
question
man.
for both of you.
Yep.
What is something that video games has taught you in life?
That was my last
Because
question.
Mikey said he learned to grind. What's something, if you guys look back at your video game days, that you're like, this taught me this, whatever it might be? What is that?
Yeah. What life lessons did you garner from growing up with video games?
I'll just go first. I feel like okay, because like I was a huge fan of StarCraft and Warcraft 3, right? Be the Frozen Throne or the normal one. What really made me see in a very different perspective is like the way where you sort of build something, it
Mhm.
comes out with a certain amount of different results. And that itself excites me because the way the whole dynamics of the gameplay, etc., changes when you do a certain, you do something different. And I feel like that itself has like sort of like taught me to think about things in every single angle and different every single perspective. So like when we do something, we always feel like there's only one, there's a solution. But at least how I see it is like, are there multiple solutions that we haven't seen it? And if we were to move the chess piece to something else, would that create a bigger impact into what we want to
Ooh,
do? So,
I
yeah.
like that. I like that a lot.
Fantastic.
Good. That's an
Fantastic.
amazing thought.
Okay.
Would never have thought it that way.
like it.
David, how about you? Anything to
What do you
add to
got,
that
David?
question?
Have you guys played RuneScape?
Oh
Dude,
my goodness.
I did. This is
Yeah,
unbelievable.
some old dudes talking, man.
David,
Oh my.
but not the fact that you brought up. I cannot tell you. It's over 50%. I would say a majority of the founders that we had on the show are in Web3 crypto. They've played RuneScape and they've brought a life lesson from RuneScape to their current business. So I can't
Dude.
wait to hear what you say.
Yeah, and in chat, just curious, if you played RuneScape, I want to know. This is crazy. All right, tell us about RuneScape, David.
I think RuneScape changed my life. RuneScape have taught me how to be an entrepreneur. Okay, let me explain.
That's what everyone said. I
Let's go.
didn't get to play RuneScape, but everyone is saying this.
RuneScape has an aspect where if you play by the normal route, you need to grind your way to level up your cooking skills, your mining skills, your fighting skills, and so on, right? So I was at maybe at level 40 or level 50. At that point, I was like, oh my God, the next level is so tough to get there. And I was thinking, how can I make money in the game in other ways? So there was once I was hanging out in the marketplace. That's where people do the trades. Hey, I'm selling this at how much? I'm selling this at how much? You can make a private trade with them, and then you can make a transaction. And then I saw this guy was selling runes. You remember runes? Where you can cast a magic with runes.
Mhm.
So you need the rune stones to cast a magic. So there are like fire stones, there are water stones, wind stones, and so on and so forth. And then I realized there's this group of people who are like the whales. They will come into the marketplace and they say that I will buy all the runes that you guys have at a high premium, at a high price.
Right.
Because they do not have time to go and collect the individual stones.
Yeah.
They want to buy everything so they can level up really quickly.
Right.
Then I saw, oh, that's an opportunity. So I would be going around instead of trying to cook and fish to find more lobsters, which I would be selling one lobster for like $100. I would be going around collecting a lot of small quantity of runes, gather them in one huge quantity, and sell them to the big players all at once at a high premium. And
Right.
that's how I made my first $1 million in RuneScape.
That's
Not
like
in
NFT right there.
There it is. Yeah, it's literally it's
Dang.
NFTs before NFTs, and the video
Yeah.
game space is prime at this point. It's got to be this year or next year where a game actually breaks through it and people can make real cash with an NFT. What are your guys' thoughts on that? Do you agree? Disagree?
Yep, I totally agree because I mean like you said, man, this theory or this model has been done tens of years ago, right?
Right.
And right now we are in a space where it's possible, and we're just I think we're really really close to make it a reality.
Yeah.
Like there are multiple games like Axie Infinity that all came up, and I think it could be like in the next 1 or 2 years where we could see a huge game bull run or whatever, where everything starts to like fortify on itself
Yeah.
on its own.
100%. I totally agree.
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, now you got an idea of what an episode looks like, and you did a hell of a job on episode 1. I am very excited to get to episode 2. We'll start with you, David, and as we've got a lot of really good base information, really good insight. The other two won't take as long. I think we really, really like to concentrate on you as humans because it helps unfold the rest of the story. So now that we know your upbringing, David, let's hear about kind of the university time up to you finding Web3, kind of that middle years of your life. Would love to hear about the fact that you're going from dancing introvert to deciding, hey, I'm going to be a creative, and you're tossing names around like Google and huge brands that you've worked with and made amazing stuff. Take us through that journey.
Yeah, sure. So after secondary school is after 16.
And real quick,
17
I have to hop away real quick to go to the bathroom, actually. I'm going to let Maddie go, and I'll be right back.
Yep.
All right.
Take us through it. We're good.
Yeah, so at 17, we were in our polytechnic years. That was 3 years, and that was the whole journey of how we came into dancing. And dance was process where you need to. It was a popular club. It's one of the most popular clubs in school. You have to go through the auditions.
Mhm.
And thankfully, I went to the auditions. I was so afraid, but I went through it thankfully. And over the years, I even went through the leadership position of being in the club. And like Clement, we totally neglected all the studies and everything. Our grades were terrible, but we were having so much fun in school. And during that period of time, I made so much friends and so much great friends that I didn't manage to do it in the past. These are people that we work together to have a goal to design a performance together, and there were so many things that we do together that we didn't have a lot of money back then as students because we eat very simple. We just have a lot of hours together brainstorming ideas, and I think that's how the whole creative process kind of tie in together with what I'm doing later on. Because in Singapore, we have to do a 2 years mandatory military service. So for
Oh,
2
okay.
years, we have to be gone. And before that, I wanted to be a dance instructor. I was like, okay, this is it. This is what I love. I'm going to be a dance instructor. But during the
Okay.
2 years break of the military days, it kind of put you in perspective to think about what you really want in your career and in your future. And looking back, while we are in love with dancing, it is not a career path that is suitable for us for many reasons, because
Okay.
Singapore market is so small, and
Yeah.
it's really very difficult to maintain that level of fitness. It's like an Olympic athlete, right? You need to always be fit. You need to always be very good at what you do. But at the same
Yeah.
time, as I think about the career path, how long can I do it? Can I do for 10 years, 15 years? Or what if I get injured and then my whole career are gone like that? So at that
Mhm.
point of time, during the 2 years of national service, we got the opportunity to think about what we want to do. And there's a lot of the friends will start to go into like sales, into corporate life, and then they were doing pretty well. They were earning quite a lot. And then I was thinking, okay, I love the creative aspect of things, but based on what I researched online, seems like the people in the creative space doesn't earn a lot. but eventually I decided to go with it. To give you some context, I think for a fresh graduate like us, I think it's around $1,800 a month.
Yeah.
That's our grades, or that's our regular range
Wages.
Yeah.
wages.
Yeah.
Guess what?
And
You cannot live in Southern California for that. I promise you.
You cannot live outside of Washington D.C. for that either. Yeah.
oh, I can imagine.
Yep.
Then I went to the corporate world in the broadcast. We were doing motion graphics for HBO, Fox Channel, MTV. So these are some of the channels that I work for. And
Mhm.
I realized that it's a very corporate environment that suffocates me. I feel like,
Oh, yeah.
it feels so, I report to the boss, and the boss is so rigid and he's not creative. There's just so many things I dislike about corporate life that makes me feel like every day is a grind just to go to work. And
Mhm.
I was hinting to my senior, he was like 40 years old. I was trying to ask him, what's his salary like, during at the days. If I were to be in this industry for the next 10 years, what would my salary be? At least I know what am I working towards. And he didn't want to give me the answer, but I would imagine perhaps like $4,000 to $5,000 if he have a wage increase of $200 to $300 a year. Because
Right.
in that creative space, there wasn't a lot of progression in terms of
Yeah.
your work. You just become a better designer. You get
Yeah.
a senior designer, or perhaps an art
Yeah.
director.
Yep.
But in the broadcast scene, unlike agencies, like ad agencies like Clement is in, there isn't a lot of progression. It makes me feel like, am I wasting my time?
Right.
And that's when I met up with Clement through a mutual friend. We had some drinks at a pub. We had similar interests, and we started to talk about motion graphics, talk about design. We were having so much fun talking about all the technicalities of After Effects and Cinema 4D. And we were talking, and I shared with him that, okay, I want to leave my job. I want to become a freelancer.
Mhm.
And that's what I did. And I think several months after that, Clement also came out to become a freelance. He was working at his home. I was working at my home. We were doing different projects. And then one day he called me, hey David, there's a competition coming up. Would you like to join the competition together? It is a 72 hours short film competition. So essentially, we need to finish a 72 seconds short film within 72 hours. So it was quite exciting. It was quite new, quite fresh.
That's
And
cool.
and then I
like
decided
this.
that, okay, let's do it. Let's try. So he came over to my house. I brought my whole iMac to his place, and we began our 72 hours grind working on this short film. So we didn't sleep much. 72 hours. We just worked through the whole 72 hours, and we finally delivered the video. And I think thankfully we can't get into the second position, the first runner up. And it was really fun. At that point, I realized that it is so fun to work with somebody instead of working ourselves.
Yeah.
There's so many creative ideas that we can talk about, can brainstorm. And a lot of ideas, if I brainstorm with Clement, it becomes something else. It blossoms into something even bigger. and it becomes so much more fun. And Clement being a very noisy person in working with, he likes to sing, he likes to talk, he likes to do a lot of things. It's like a fresh air for me.
Right.
In all my corporate life, when I work, it's always a very quiet environment. Everybody's in the zone doing their own things.
Right.
But when I work with Clement, he's like talking all day
Sounds
and
like
being
Maddie
that-
and I, man. I mean, this is
I'm just beside me.
It's just
Come on.
yeah, it's just friends. It's just friends on the background. That's all.
it's
Friends
so
and
cool.
How I
Like,
Met Your Mother.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I've got to work with noises, with music, right? I can't like work in a very stagnant place.
Yeah.
So it kills off the creative vibe. So yeah, I
Yeah.
tend to talk to people a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, but and David is like at the receiving end, right? So I was like, always talking to him all the time, and he's like, okay.
Secret.
That's awesome.
But now
Honestly,
you
it-
know, and this is what's really cool about it. Like, we haven't had this dynamic. We're usually talking to one person, but I'm sure you're each other learning just little flashes about each other. It's really cool to see the dynamic of you two sharing each other's stories together. So you enter this competition. What happens with the competition then?
Yeah, they got second place, and he learned that he likes working with having more than just himself, right? So take us from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, I wasn't quite comfortable with him being so noisy. But on the on the second day onwards, I felt like, hey, it's actually really good. It's good for me in terms of creativity, and I kind of appreciate that over time, like really quickly. I find that it's so much more fun, and time passes really quickly working with somebody like him. and, and yeah, we finished the competition, everything went well. And I think following that, we asked ourselves, okay, why not we form a company together so that we can create crazier things together? We can onboard more clients together to work together.
Right.
And that's what we did. And that's what happened 10 years ago. We find a really small office together. The office is like really small, only can fit like 2 or 3 of us. But it was I always remember the moment where we got our first office. It was such a memorable moment. I've never thought that I would have my own office like that. Like, oh, it's my own company. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
And it was such a profound moment for me,
Mhm.
having we went to shopping and to find the furniture, to find the computers, and then inviting our clients over to have a chat in our office. We are so proud of all these moments.
That's
that
awesome, man.
that is so, yeah, it's so memorable. And even until today, we always remember our first days, and that's what motivates us even until today.
Right. And so what, question for that, and then I think we can do half a two, because I'd love to talk to Clement about his time, and then it would be fun for you to kind of work off each other on creating the company together, because I feel like that's the next
Yeah.
chapter. Like, you guys met and then you created something together, and I'd love to hear you kind of riff off each other for that. But before we go to Clement and like his your company creation, that crowning moment of like, holy shit, I have an office, and you bought the furniture. Up till then, like, what were some life lessons that you think helped get you there? Because not many people get there, right? Many people just get comfortable, and they say, you know what, I'm gonna be I'm comfortable being comfortable, even though throughout their life they're like, I'm bored as shit, I hate this, but they just do it because it's easy, right? You did not do that. So to get to that point where you're got a big ass smile, you're shopping for furniture, you're bringing clients to your office, some life lessons there to get you to that point, or things that you think helped get you to that point.
When you talk about that, there's something that came into my mind, which is my parents.
Mm-hmm.
During as Asian parents, they want you to be doctors and lawyers. It's a very common thing,
Mm-hmm.
and they want you to have a stable job.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what my parents want for me as well. And when I first came out to do freelance, I was working from home every single day. My parents would be asking me, "Hey, when are you going to get a job? When are you going to go on interviews, being an entrepreneur is not going to work. And every day they would say that to me. So over time, I think it came to a point where I really wanted to prove them wrong. I want to show them that there is a way to work around it. There's a way that we can be entrepreneurs in our own rights. And that's what really pushes me on at that stage. And when I think at that point we were also very proud of the office. We also invited our parents over when they first saw our progress. Finally, we can see their faces like, okay, I think David is really onto something. He
Right.
love what he do, and yeah, he can make a career out of it.
Right.
And since then, they stopped chasing me to find a stable job, and it became such a memorable moment. Yeah,
So,
like seeing
so are
how my
you
parents changed.
are you saying your parents almost in essence drove you to seek entrepreneurship because they wanted you to have a successful job, or your parents helped because even though it might not have been the doctor or the lawyer, they still helped support you through it?
Yeah, they has always been very supportive, but I think what drove me is I wanted to prove them wrong
Yes.
in terms of the normal thinking. Yeah.
I love it. That's where I thought you were going. And listen, I mean, it comes in so many different forms of why people get there. I think that's a really interesting take, and thank you for sharing that with us. Maddie, any questions before I move on to Clement?
Yes. Yeah, I have a couple questions for sure. I'm fascinated by a couple aspects of what you said. Going all the way back when Mike was on his bathroom break, you said you wanted to be a dance instructor. And then you realized, well, you didn't realize till you had your mandatory military service. So my question first is this: what happened when you were in the military, or what was it about your military experience that you think, because you said it kind of shaped the way you viewed things? Can you maybe just dive into that a little bit more? What happened in the military that kind of shaped the way you think about your future? And was it specifically the military itself?
I think during my days in the military, I think at least for the first few months, it was quite a culture shock because you are removed from all the freedom of what you can do on your daily lives, and you have to do what you have been told to do, and there's a lot of discipline in terms of uh, what you have to do on a daily basis. Wake up at 5 a.m. every single day and do this, do that, do that. Even you can't do it anymore, you push yourself to the limits. I think these are all great lessons that we learned. But at the same time, we also have quite a lot of free time in terms of what we want, or to think about what we want to do in life after we finish our military. And during those days, there wasn't iPhone, there wasn't the phones was still like the black and white phones. We can't bring fancy phone to the military, so all we can do is perhaps play basketball with your fellow recruits, or read some books during our free time. So these are the things that it was the first time in my military days that I finished a book.
Mm.
that I
Wow.
thought, wow, I had not finished any single storybook or non-fiction books prior to that life. In the military, I've completed one book, and I think it starts to become a new habit for me, because I realized that reading books, we can stand on the shoulders of giants to have a lot of new knowledge, to get all the new knowledge to in a very short amount of time.
I love
And I
that.
think that really changes your priorities, and think about what you really want to do in the next 10 years. It was like a pause. It's like a forced pause of your life. If I were to do dance all the way, like keep dancing, 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 there wasn't a pause, I would have just gone ahead with that route. But the pause
Mhm.
that came into the stop that came into my life kind of makes me think, oh, actually there are other options. It's not only one route that I can take. Now I can have 3, 4 different routes. What do I really want? What do I want to try before I make a
Yeah.
decision?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
Man, what an amazing lesson there in the power of pausing and reflection. Um, I know that now it's kind of a buzz term now, the concept of mindfulness and taking time, meditation. I can certainly say Western wise, that was not really a thing, right? And now it's starting to become kind of people are getting into, you know what? I need to take 20 minutes out of the day and just breathe and be quiet and listen to myself, right? Because we don't stop. And it's interesting because you had a forced stop with military service, and you were able to do that. That's wild. Do you think that is? Do you look back at that and you're thankful for that time?
Yeah, definitely. I think
Well, go ahead. Go ahead.
it was when you're at that time, you feel like, oh my God, I'm just wasting a lot of time of my life, you know. Like I've done so
Hmm.
much in the 2 years, having a career progression outside of military.
Right.
But
Yeah,
looking back, after many years, you're out of the military, you realize that, oh, there are so much lessons there. And even health, the way you eat, how much you exercise, what time
mhm,
you wake up, all these discipline and habits are what forms our viewpoint as well. So I think
for sure.
there were so many lessons that we didn't appreciate back then, but we appreciate later on.
Yeah, I love it.
I agree. 100%. I agree 100%.
Thank you for
Yeah,
sharing
no,
that
that's
insight.
fantastic.
Great insight.
My next question is what was the book you did read? Because you said you were standing on the shoulders of giants, and just to even have that realization, it must have been an impactful book.
It was let me find it. It's by Adam Cole. How to Be a Millionaire.
There it
Or
is.
something.
There it
Yeah.
is.
There it
Yeah.
is.
Or
Yeah.
secrets of millionaire investors or something like that. Yeah. Or secrets of
No, but
millionaires.
that's amazing. Because here's what's cool, man. You took that, and it's the first book that you made it through. But look at here, look at where you're at right now, and I think that that's amazing. It just tells the power of books, man. You named it. It's like you can learn from other people's entire life experience, and they consolidate it down into something that, Mike, you can listen to in what, 8-10 hours on an audiobook.
Yep.
Like, that's wild. It's all there. And I just between you saying that, and then Clement, when you were talking about the concept of how you were just like seeking out these videos to learn After Effects, it's just really cool how you both sought out sources of information from people who were experts, or at least credible, right? And how that influenced you. And I think that that's really cool. I love it. And then the only other thing I was going to say is that 72 hour to 72 seconds. That's pretty freaking cool. And it sounds like what's something you take from that experience, collaborating, not getting any sleep. Do you feel like that and other things like that prepared you for, and not to pull us into Web3, but everyone we've heard from says, that pre-mint process is just a wild ride. Do you think things like that prepared you for that?
Definitely.
Because
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the premium process was definitely crazy. So I mean, me and David are used to like really late nights and not sleeping for a while. So I mean, but the premium was at another level, to be honest,
Yeah.
because there was so much at stake. But yeah, definitely one of the most stressful periods of our life.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
even in your career, and we're about to get into you guys when it comes to Offset as the business. I imagine that this is just a routine for you guys. Like, you have the 72 hour, 72 seconds, and then all of a sudden you're getting paid to create these 60-second spots, 30-second spots, and obviously you have a little bit more than 72 hours, or I don't know, maybe sometimes you didn't. You have to tell us that. But it's a lot. You have to cram a whole bunch of effort into this short little block of time. A lot of people see a 30-second commercial and have no idea the amount of man hours that went into producing that 30 seconds. And I know Mike knows a lot about that too. So yeah, I think let's maybe move into that phase two, Mike. Or actually, I'm sorry, we got to get
We
phase
gotta
one of the
get
career.
we gotta get
Yeah.
Clement's. So
All right,
Clement,
lead us
take
there.
us to you know, you got through childhood. We played a lot of video games. We might have done some bad things in school, but still played video games, progress, learn, grow. Take us through that to the point where you make that 77-second video and start a company with David.
All right. Do I talk like you guys want to hear about my career or after the 72 seconds thing?
No. Before, so
Everything. So
your
Oh,
career up
after
to that,
school.
and then we'll talk about you guys building a company together.
got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. So, I mean, so where I started, my very first job, like I said, I was creating banners and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And one of the most exciting stuff, so wanted to create more cool stuff. So that's where I started learning After Effects, etc. So when I was in my very first advertising, I think that was like my second job. I was like 22, 23, and I always wanted, like, out of the mundane work that I do every day, I hope like someday I can do a commercial work for, maybe, because we had clients like, I think there was Heineken at that point, DKNY, and Adidas, for the agency, right? And I always, like, tell my seniors and everything, just give me a chance. I think I can do something great. I just hope
Right.
that someone will give me the chance, right? And then the chance came upon, like, there was this Adidas commercial. It's for this shoe called Adidas Mega. And I was working with one art director, because like back then I was just, people are still looking at me as like, oh, you're a front end developer, right? So I was working on the website to sort of like build it with him. And my seniors were really nice. They brought me into the whole entire brainstorming and everything, right? And that was where I started doing a lot of like I try to push a lot more for the website. And like there was like a trailer that the client did not have budget for. I actually did it out of myself. And I was like there. I think I worked like 16 hours a day back then, and I was like the first to reach and last to leave, right? I probably leave the agency at like 3 to 4 a.m. and then start the day at 9 a.m. again and again. So just to sort of like to put all the knowledge that I know from the YouTube videos into this animation that I have a chance to make. And it was like this beatbox sort of like website where you can just mix music, etc. So that it actually resonates back to our dance days, because there was this leg dancing, etc. So as you it was like 8 bits, right? So when you press when you kind of mix 4 of it with one of the beatboxer, it becomes like a full track.
Yeah.
And that was like I think years ago. And that website itself won, like, FWA, like, no, they won multiple awards across that. And that was like one of like the sort of the life-changing moment for my career.
Yeah.
And a lot of the agency, like, the people start taking notice in what I can achieve. And I started doing stuff for, like, even the pitches for Johnny Walker, etc. And I remember doing something for Tiger Beer, the Heineken tree, and stuff like that, right? And that was the start of my animation career. And I just like love to do what I do every day. And I just, like, want to do more every single day. So after, I think I was in the agency for close to 2 years. And I went to LA for a bit.
Nice.
I went there for some short courses to learn a little bit more on 3D animation,
Right.
3D modeling and stuff. And along the way, I got really lucky to. I was there in West Hollywood, and I had a few opportunities, because my portfolio came with like all the big brands, right?
Right.
So I got this huge opportunity to work on a music video. This artist called Hunter Hayes. I'm not sure if you guys know him. His song is called Wanted. So when I was doing this music video, I honestly don't know who he was, but I just I
don't
was
know who he
doing
is.
all the VFX and everything. And but I think months or years later, he won an award. And now, like, I think there's like 60, 70 million views on the music video. Hunter Hayes Wanted. I was like, wow. That
So
was something
you
huge.
made the Hunter Hayes Wanted music video.
I made all the visual effects on the, yeah.
Holy shit, man. This
I
guy's got
did this,
136,000 subs on YouTube, and I'm looking at it right now. Hey,
yeah. So I did that with my
Wild,
really
dude.
old
You ain't kidding.
13-inch.
84 million views.
dude, you're not messing around. 84 million
Yeah.
people. Isn't that crazy to think? 84 million people saw your work. That's wild, man.
That was wow. I mean, when I was doing, I had no expectations that's gonna go so well. I was like, okay, there is an opportunity. Maybe I'll just jump on it, because like I was sort of like doing some freelance work here and there for movies, etc. But those are like smaller great movies. But there was this
Sure.
music video. I was like, okay, maybe I just give it a shot, because I had to sort of like feed myself, right? So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna do it on my really small 13-inch MacBook. And I was like, okay, you know what? Just gonna do it every night, right? And what wasn't the easiest time, but thankfully I made it.
Yeah.
So I was there for like a year, and I came back to Singapore to sort of like become a creative group head at an agency, doing accounts for, like, brands such as Bosch or banks such as UOB, etc. And I was there for like half a year. I had like I was quite at the top of the agency level where I have a lot of creatives under me, but I was like, I'm done with this because like I feel like every time back when I want to narrate my story in terms of motion design, etc., I can't do it like the way I want it because there's always like different hierarchies of people to sort of like convince or whatsoever. So I think it was there for like 6 months, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna do my own thing. I went to freelance, and that's when I met David, and that's when we started Offset because we sort of want to tell our own story and animation style to the whole world in the way that we want to do it, right? So there is where like all the magic happens. Like the 72 hours, we started Offset with two of us in a small office. I remember like we had a toilet in the middle. It was really small, right? So we had these two of us. So there wasn't room for toilets. So if you sort of like pee and everything, you can hear it. Not the best place, but it's like the most memorable place. I was so proud of it. And like we sort of like go to different offices here and there. I think now we're like our fourth or fifth office, but we still always miss the very first office.
Right.
And
Oh yeah, that's a massive moment in your guys' life and career.
What
right?
a milestone.
Before we get into the company, I just actually have one question. Thank you for your thorough explanation. You said something very interesting to me. And Maddie and I talk about this a lot. You were trying to get your shot, and you said you were working till 3, 4 a.m., but you said something also really interesting. Your client didn't have money for a video they want, and you did it anyways for free. Yep. Can you talk to me about the power of doing things for free in the beginning of your career to get that shot? Because we talk about that a lot. Do you think that helped you out? I mean, I think it's an interesting concept. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I do believe in this concept. I'm not sure if you guys heard about it, the 10,000 hours concept. Yeah. So if you practice something for 10,000 hours, you'll be good. So, and that is at least how I see improvement and growth, right? I mean, yes, I still get a salary, but can I go beyond doing more? Right. And to me, I just want to prove myself, and I just want to do better, right? And that itself to me is more important than if the client's gonna pay or not, or does it even matter? Are they gonna use it at the end? But I just want to do it for myself, where I can make myself a better version of myself. Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of times people are very like they tend to be very skeptical about, I don't want to do free stuff, etc. But I look at it as opportunities. Like it or not, I will just jump on it and do it because it matters to me to be better, because I feel like money and etc. will come in time to come, right? But if you are so focused on money at this point where you're not really that good, you probably you have to grind your days up. Yeah.
No, I love it. I love that insight. David, anything to add on to that? Because I think this is just such a fascinating topic.
I think during our early days as a freelancer, there were some jobs that are well paid, but the job requirement, the brief sucks. There are some free jobs that that people ask you, but it is so fun.
Yeah.
And sometimes in the early days, we kind of do both. We need to feed ourselves with some of the very boring jobs, but there are some jobs which is like so low paying, but it was so fun.
Yeah.
So there was once there was a job that I had as a freelancer. It was for a concert, and I was tasked to do the concert visual of the show. So imagine the LEDs at the back and all that. Those are visuals that we need to create to support the storytelling of the whole concert.
Right.
So it's a very important aspect of the whole theater designing. Mm-hmm. And I felt like it was so fun because it was something that I'm familiar with. That there was dance involved, there was music, and then now there's a whole visual. There's people watching. I jumped on board. Yeah. But I was paid so little. Like for that month, I probably cannot eat much.
Right.
Yeah. I was the only designer for that concert, and I only have like 30 days to finish the whole 2 hours concert. Mm-hmm. So imagine the amount of visuals I need to come up with, and that was like I was working late hours every day. At night I was thinking, well, is this even worth it for all the time that I'm going to put in? But then the concert day comes. The day of opening, people settle down. I was so nervous, but people love it, but people love the show and all that. And in the intro, there was two dancers, they were interacting. It was all pitch black. And then the show started. The visuals came on, the storytelling began, and then the whole music accompanied the whole visual, and everybody in the audience go, wow. And it sort of bring them into a new fantasy space. I think I remember the theme was similar to Avatar.
Yeah.
It's not to the
Mhm.
extent of Avatar,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
the concept of very fantasy, whimsical kind of vibe.
Right.
We put them into that
Mhm.
space, and I saw faces that were smiling. They were really feeling the whole environment and the show, and people enjoyed it. And that was when I think like, wow, it's all worth it. All the hard work is worth it.
Yeah.
Seeing all the smiles is just so worth it.
Dude,
Yeah.
that gave me chills, man. That gave me chills. That's such an awesome story. Maddie, anything to add before we move on to the next chapter?
Yeah. I think that the concept of doing something for free can be confused for not confused, but maybe some people will do things for free because they need to build a portfolio, right? I get that. And I think what happens is people will see creators do something for free to build a portfolio and assume that they must be new, not really that skilled, and that they can take advantage of them to get free stuff done, right? What I think was interesting is in your situation, Clement, you didn't have to do that. You didn't need to do that. You were already working for an agency that gets paid to do the work, and you
Yep.
did it anyway. And I think that it's that mental leap of what a lot of leadership books call like the second mile mentality, right? If they say do 1 mile, go with them a second mile, right? That concept, which both of you just gave stories for, um, pays just remarkable dividends, right? And not only in the story, but in the impacts that it has. I mean, in your situation, Clement, you said it like that ended up being a marked point of your career in the agency, right? I mean, that's where you kind of got your shot, and people started recognizing who you were, what you were capable of, and that really propelled you forward. And then for you, David, also to be able to say, okay, is it worth it? The validation you got seeing those faces and seeing the reaction of the audience is, I think, a really big part that people need to understand whenever they're in a grind, whenever they're going through it. And it's also just great for people to hear. I mean, just to Mike's point, the idea of goosebumps, hearing that stuff just gets me excited because we all have to do that. We're all on a journey to try to attain mastery in whatever it is we're passionate about. And everyone who's obtained that mastery has done this and they've given back. And that's part of it, right? And so it's really cool to see that. And I hope it's something that you guys continue to do. I'm excited to see if we see this theme come back as we get into more Web3 things, because what's neat is now you guys do have the status, you do have the resume, you do have the portfolio, um, and it's really neat when artists or creatives continue to do, just as you said, the fun things, right? You don't have to do it, but you do it, and you're doing it
Yeah.
for the money, but you're doing it because you're like, ooh, I'm gonna kind of like flex a little bit and see what I can do, and that's cool, right? And it's your point. I'll stop my rant here in a second, but James Cameron with Avatar, that's he doesn't have to prove his chops as a director anymore,
Exactly.
right? But what's interesting is when you study James Cameron, the fact that he can sit there and say, you know what, I know everybody wants Avatar 2, but the technology isn't there yet, and he just shelves it, right? He doesn't have to prove anything to anybody, but then when he knows he wants to do something, he's like, he lets the world, here's what I can do. And it's just kind of a cool thing to see when people get to that point in their career. And I think that's really fascinating. So, yeah, thanks for sharing that. That's wild. That's really cool. I didn't connect all those dots.
Yeah, no, those are awesome thoughts. And so I'll let and what I think at this point, we've been talking to you beautiful humans for already over an hour and a half. Probably didn't realize it was that long. Because it's just an amazing, just fantastic. Like I said, man, we're sitting by a campfire having some fun. This is tons of
Yep.
fun. Um, because of time, I want to be cognizant of that because we haven't even gotten to Web3 or your project yet, because we want to talk about that too. Either whoever wants to start, take us through building a company together in the beginnings of Web3, and then you guys can kind of chime in. So who wants to
like the
take
beginning of
that?
Offset?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So before the Wise, I mean, we got Offset, like it's like 10 years old, and then we got a second business, which is Ophio, which is an online video platform, which it's just like a drag and drop kind of content platform, right? We serve like
Right.
300,000 small businesses. So that's like the point of time where we started go a lot into tech, and that's where like the Web3 will actually make sense. So for imaginary ones, to be honest, it was just like so I did a lot of stuff when like on Instagram, right? 10 years ago, just for fun. I just posted I was following the teachings of people, like he posted on every days.
Right.
I'll just I'll just do it, right? And along the way, a lot of stuff that I did got a lot of traction from like Samsung, and I was doing something for Blackpink, Van Cleef, etc. Right? So those are like there are these spheres that are always revolving around, and the colors that I often use in the works that I did on my Instagram back then. So me and David, I mean, we've been investing in crypto for like a few years, and we're like and 2 years ago, December, I was talking to my wife, and I was like telling her, like, you know what? Since I've been doing this stuff, why not? Just I could create some characters. It was during this December period, where the company has a break. It was Christmas and New Year's, and I was like really really bored at home. My kids are asleep, and I was like, you know what? Let's just try something. So I created this 5 characters of imaginary ones, and like I think I finished them in like close to 2 weeks, and I showed David in January. I was like, hey, check this out. How about we do something in the NFT or Web3 space, right? So David's like, okay, let's try it, and we sort of like posted it on Twitter. And to be in all honesty, it wasn't like during the first 1 hour, I don't think there was anybody that liked our video or anything, right? And me and David just say, you know what, let's just go to sleep. Maybe it's not working out. We went to sleep, right? And the next day when we woke up, it became viral, right? And like people really love the characters, and I think in 24 hours we had like 24,000 followers, and David was calling me in the morning and say, like, you know what, you gotta change all your passwords and stuff like that. I was like, oh my god, what's happening? And like a lot of stuff just grew exponentially, and imaginary ones grew like to a huge point, and we had to like learn a lot of things, like how do we manage a community, create a Discord, and when I was creating the characters, because they are all in 3D, I never had this thought that I would be creating 8,888 of them. I was like, you know what, we're just gonna do like 500,
Right.
and then I'm done, right? So I'll just do it by hand. But David was saying, like, the demand is that huge, right? We have to like sort of figure out a way to create that in a very scalable model. And that itself, like, it's just how we do business. We do things that are very scalable.
Right.
So the animation wise, me and David took it back and just reiterate in a lot of ways, so that we can sort of like permutate them in a way that it still looks like it's in the 3D world, and it looks good, right? So that was one of the toughest thing that I think I had to go through, because like to be honest, to permutate something at this scale is at a 3D animation, I don't think anybody has done it before. And we're like, okay, I'm just gonna try it, and turn out it was great. So and that period of time where we started launching our Discord, every time there was a huge demand. The moment we pasted our Discord link, it started crashing and everything. So we had to have a lot of like securities and everything to make sure that our servers don't get hacked, etc. Right? So not the easiest time. We went through a lot. For the last, like, since January to April we minted. That period of time, I think we learned so much, and I think I grew old like crazy during that period, because like we had employees coming in to help us sort of check all the 8,888 characters. And when they saw me, they were like, oh my god, how long have you not slept? I looked like, I looked really haggard. I like had huge eye bags and everything. So I think it's that point of time where I feel like I reached my creative maximum capacity, because I was
Right.
like creating nonstop. And like with the legendary characters and doing the marketing content, even the website I was doing it. It was insane. So there was a lot of learning points, and I don't say I won't think that is easy, but I would say like creating a Web3 business is easy, but it takes a lot of experience to sort of like get to a certain point, right? If you have never done a business before, I think it's a little bit difficult to sort of think like out of the box in like every move you make is gonna cost like the StarCraft analogy that I was saying, right? Every wrong move you make could create a different angle.
Right.
So like today we say, okay, maybe if like 10 white, 10 allow this, right? Will that actually be something that the community will accept, or will it backfire, etc.? There's so many different permutations in doing things. So there's something that I feel like if for Web3 businesses that wants to start out, I think just try to think about things in a very holistic sort of like angle.
Right.
Yep.
Maddie,
Yep.
I'm gonna let you respond to that, because we went at hyper speed to imaginary ones.
Yes. So to be fair, I think I said the question in a confusing way.
Oh,
Okay?
right.
So this was first of all, I love this breakdown.
was
Everything you
awesome.
said, and I
That
already
was
have
awesome.
questions about that. So we're gonna get back to this. But what I would like to get though is, could you give me maybe a 5-minute journey from the start, from that first office of just you two and Offset, to the next 10 years, right? Take us through that 10 years of just you guys working together, building a traditional business, right? A Web2 business, and right up to you getting bored at Christmas time and during the holidays and drafting these. So take us through that last 10-year period of time and give us kind of what happened with Offset, how you guys grew, how the company grew, maybe some milestones.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear that.
How did you get your clients? Like, what did that process look like? Because I
Yes.
think there's a lot of learning lessons from you
Absolutely.
talking about that experience.
For sure.
Maybe you want to go, or you?
You can go ahead first. I can add on.
Oh, okay. So I think for Offset wise, from the very day we start, I came from an advertising agency, and David came from a broadcast world, right? So when we started our business, we had a lot of friends that actually help us. Like I had like clients from. I think we had a good start. I mean, we have big clients and we have small clients. Like we have clients such as Samsung, etc., to sort of like help us along the way. And David had like HBO, etc., StarHub, etc., to sort of like create our portfolio really, really quickly. Was it like the most best paying? But it wasn't, because because we're new and we had to the previous conversation, we had to like take up a lot of different jobs to sort of prove ourselves that we are good enough for this industry. And along the way, we sort of did a lot of different animation and slowly grew our portfolio and the team slowly grew to a point where like it was just two of us, and then we had our very first employee, which is Gregory, and then the rest started growing, right? And how we actually pitched for clients was like, to be honest, we just hustle, man. Like if you do a great job at this for this client, they probably will just like introduce you to different clients, right?
Right.
So
So referrals was the
exactly,
main way. Got it.
yeah. And if so sometimes we do works for like different agencies, and this creative will probably just he may quit his job and he goes to another creative, and that creates a cycle in terms of like how we often have more and more jobs coming in. But I think to be in all honesty, I think it's like we should be I feel like we want to do good work all the time, and that helps a lot.
Yeah.
Because we push the limits in terms of like if this is the budget, okay, but we'll push a little bit beyond the budget, right? And we'll try to still do a great job out of it. So, and that makes a mark in terms of how people remember us in this industry, because it is a tough industry. So along like I think there was a point of time when Offset hit like 32-ish employees. It was quite insane. And that's when me and David ventured out to our second business, which is called Ophio, and we passed our very first our leadership post to our very first employee, Gregory, which is also one of the founding member of Imaginary Ones. So what happens was like we went to do Ophio, which is like something that we want to marry tech and creative together. And that is like something very new for us. So we started building a platform where users, because like where we were doing the high end content for clients, there are a lot of small businesses that couldn't afford the services. They couldn't afford money to sort of like create content. I think there was a period of time when it was a short social media content where you see a lot of Facebook, there's like 10 seconds, etc. So we wanted to fix the gap and the problem. And that's where I feel like we created Ophio to have multiple templates where you can just drag and drop and change the animation and everything. So we brought our animation skills into the world, hired CTO, and sort of like build this platform up. So right now Ophio is like close to 5 years old, I think. Yep, and it has grew us in size, and it's like probably very self-run as of now, and we have served like I think close to 300,000 small businesses along the way.
Wow.
So that's our second business before we actually reach to the Web3 world.
To the Web3 world. And David, do you want to add anything into that journey? Because that's a fascinating journey. And just to comment on what you said, Clement, you said two things that we firmly believe in is, well, you are one of the few products of, someone from my Hate Beast days said, you got to talk to these guys. And hence you're on the show now. So we live and die by referrals. It's huge, right? And I think what we do on this show is unique. So people recognize that, well, your instance, you're going above and beyond and creating creative. But you also said again, our budget is X. We're going to go that far above and beyond because you want to wow and delight, and that conversation keeps on coming up. So it's just interesting to hear you say that again. David, that time period before you could start the Web3 journey, anything you want to add there onto what Clement said?
Yeah, just to add a few points to add more meat to Clement's sharing. I think when he shared a few things that came into my mind was, in the past 10 years, there was a lot of tough decisions we had to make along the way.
Ooh.
So I think in the first 2 years, we were working so hard. Any projects that came in, new clients that come in, okay, we'll just take it, we do our best and everything. But towards our third and fourth year mark, we start to feel the burnt out as a creative. We start to realize that, oh my God, we create so many projects, we deliver, they don't even appreciate you, we don't even know how well it does, there isn't any metrics to share with us. Okay, if is this animation doing well or not? So over time, it becomes such a mundane work that you work, you deliver, you work, you deliver. That we lost the sense of satisfaction. We lost the fulfillment of working over time. Because in the beginning, we wanted portfolio. We are so motivated.
Right.
Every day we are learning new lessons, how to make this animation cooler, how to create these 3D effects better. It was so many things to keep us occupied. But over time, we start to realize, the money we make is not a lot, and then there's so much work, and then we are not feeling appreciated. And we were so tired at one point. I was telling Clement, okay, let's have a chat at a cafe, right? So we went to a nearby cafe. It's like Starbucks, but it was coffee bean.
Right.
So we went there, have a coffee, and
We
we
got
thought,
coffee bean here too.
Yeah.
and then we're thinking to ourselves, is this really what we want to do? Are we just like freelancers for these agencies or for these clients? We are exchanging our time for money. We are still doing a lot of the work.
Right.
And that's where I realized we make a few tougher decisions in terms of innovations and delegate work. I think in the beginning of the first 2 years, we were very hands-on. We want to do everything ourselves.
Right.
When we pass our work to our employees, our designers, when we look at it, we feel like, I think I can do better. And then we will go and
Right.
take over the work, and then we want to do it ourselves to make it better and then deliver to the client. We just couldn't feel safe delivering their work. But what we realized over time is we really have to delegate work better. We have to brief them better. We have to empower them to do what they do, even though it could mean they fall a few times, But if they can do like 70-80% of the work that you do, keep empowering them, they'll get better than you, and then they will help the company grow as a whole.
Yeah.
So in the first 2 years, we were trying to navigate around that, and the team was rather small, like 5-6 people, until we managed to break through that. Then the company eventually grew to a 32-man team.
Right.
And that was one of the key lessons that we learned as entrepreneurs.
I love
and
that,
those
man.
decisions came from very tough times or tough situations, and it evolves.
Right.
And Orfeo came about because we love motion graphics, but we wanted a more scalable solution. We wanted to reach people around the world instead of we doing for individual clients.
Right.
You want to exchange the service-based business into a more product-based business so that we can charge a subscription, and then we can scale the product, because using tech we can scale to 10,000, 20,000 people, even though we are just the same amount of people in the office. And that's what we do.
I love it,
We
man.
learn so much along the way, and everything converge. Everything that we learned in the past 10 years,
Right.
when we launched Imaginary Ones, we realized that wow, everything that we learned really converged into Imaginary Ones.
Right.
Our knowledge in tech, our knowledge in management, our knowledge in all these different clients management, all put together into Imaginary Ones. That is what we are meant to do.
Right.
To build a brand that we can own, to build a brand that we can build for the world to know. And yeah, we can go on to that Imaginary One story later on.
No, man, I love that insight, because what I just heard you say is you learned how to be employees. Well, you were employees and you learned how to be leaders. That's what you learned over the last 10 years. And that came with
Exactly.
some hard decisions, which were, I'm
Yeah.
sure, laying people off or having really tough conversations and not taking all of, not taking on the best clients at times because you were so tunnel visioned on making the best product. But in reality, to run a really good company, you need people to do that, right? And you need to be taking care of all of the other stuff, the glue to keep it together. So that was beautifully said, man. Clement, and you want to add anything to that before we move on to Web3?
No, I'm good, man. I mean, yeah, David definitely beefed up the whole thing. So, we definitely like, yeah, it wasn't rainbows and unicorns all the time when you run a business, right? Everybody looking on from the outside and think like, okay, it seems like it's easy work, but we had to just do multiple roles just to try to scale our
Yeah.
business and to sort of like learn what is a real scalable business, and it's really important because like most of the time when everybody start a business, they will start with something that they are good at, and most of the time it's a service kind of business, and that itself is often not scalable because
Yes.
if this person were to leave, it's not
You're
going
the
to work.
secret.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think we learned it the hard way across the years, and I hope like entrepreneurs and everything could start on a better foot. Like if they're hearing this out, always take a step back and think like, how can your business be in a very scalable model in a vertical level, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that.
Which you said earlier, right, when you were talking about becoming a father. You
Yeah.
said, it's like I used to put in a 16-hour day, and now I start thinking, how can I use my time more effectively, right? And you
Yeah.
said you learned how to work smarter. And that, I think, is, if you're just going to boil down entrepreneurship and scalability, it's you always work hard, but you have to work smart if you want it to be something bigger than just yourself. And I like that transition, right? For like Mike, how you said you guys started as employees, and you do what most entrepreneurs do, as you just said, right? Which is then you just own your job, right? When you start a small business, you still have a job, you just own it. You know what I mean? And then eventually you have to move into some type of a business system, right? A system that is scalable, so you can take yourself out and let it work on its own. That's really the only way wealth is ever created in any business, right? Because like you said, you can't duplicate yourself.
Yep.
And you're right, it's a major failure disease for most small businesses. For it's like, man, this person makes the best pie ever, they should start a business making pies. Well, then they're just working 80 hours a week making
Making
pie, and it
pies.
does. And on top of that, they stop loving the thing that they enjoyed. Now baking pies is just a job, and they're bitter about it, and they have
Right.
no time. And so you have to figure out a way. And I think you guys said some great points. I mean, David, when you talked about how it's so easy to, man, I totally relate to this. You look at a project that an employee did, and the first thing that goes to your head is, I could have done that better. And so you take it over, right? But now you're just doing it again. And so yeah, it's an
Yeah.
interesting evolution that we all have to go through. I think some people do it faster than others. Took me
Right.
a long time
Yeah.
to get through that process.
Yeah. And I want to chime in that I feel your pain because I built in-house creative studios for major companies in the US. And I think the creative world is even harder because there's this layer of subjectivity over top of it. Like building an Excel sheet and crunching numbers is a pretty black and white thing. But if you're building these awesome and close, to be able to have uh, the leadership to say, okay, I might not love this because it's not my style, but does it get the job done? That's freaking hard to do, right?
Yeah.
So props to you, and I love that insight.
Yeah,
I
this is
have
great.
to hop away on my family duty for like 3 to 4 minutes. Maddie, take us through the Imaginary Ones Web3. I want to be also cognizant of time because I told you guys around 2 hours. I think we got about a half hour left of convo. Can you handle that, or is that gonna be okay? All right, cool.
Yeah.
Maddie, you go to Web3
Perfect. I
Imaginary
got it.
Ones, and I'll
Yeah.
be back.
So, as we said, guys, this is a different form, right? We like to talk a lot more about you guys, your past, what makes you tick, how you got here. But now we have arrived, right? You've seen Web3, and actually, Clement, you gave a great just overview of how it kind of was conceptualized and what happened as you guys went into that launch. Take us through. Okay, so now it's getting some traction. Take us from this point. You sent a tweet. I think you said it was a tweet, and you wake up to like 25,000 followers and all this different stuff. Take us from that moment through mint, and it can be either of you or maybe just bounce off of each other. But that process of like, okay, this is something, and we're gonna turn it into something, and we're gonna make an NFT project. We're gonna make 8,888 of these things, and we're gonna get all the way up to mint. Take us through that process.
David, you go first.
Right. So it was quite a memorable moment, or the date was profoundly in my head because it was one day after my birthday. And the day before that tweet, I was just thinking, okay, what my birthday wish is, okay, please let imaginary ones work, okay, please. And then the next day we will post it. And so when we post it, wow,
Okay,
it
I'm gonna
does.
text you for a birthday wish because you seem to have the trick.
It's the genie.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
and yeah, thankfully it works. People love it, and I think there was so much to learn within such a short period of time because we realized that okay, we need to be on this full time. So Clement
Yeah.
and I, the next day we thought that okay, this is huge. It's a new innovation. We want to do this really, really well, and we want to go this full time. And thankfully, we have a system in place for our other businesses, and we talk to our other leadership people, colleagues in our company, and then we could jump on board full time. And so within a week or two, we jump on board full time, and we really put all our hearts into the project to really make this work.
Mhm.
And I think what really resonates with people is we want to build a positive impact in the space. And people when they see the vibrant colors, when they see the cute balls and fears in the body, it just resonates with people, and we want to just amplify that message over and over again. And I think one of the things that why we managed to do that transition really well is also because there was a lot of trust. We have been working together for 10 years, and some of the colleagues that we work with, most of them are with us for at least 5, 7, 8 years. And when we do a transition, immediately everything just clicked. We trust each other's
Yeah.
position. Clement will be in charge of the creative. I'll be in charge of the rest of the things with our other colleagues. We manage the community, manage all the marketing, manage all the mint, the launch, and everything. Put everything together. And that's why I felt it was quite an amazing journey because everything that we have experienced in the past 10 years are put into this project immediately. Like everything become applicable. Like our knowledge in tech, in managing tech product, or our knowledge in managing service product, all this comes into play really, really well. So So it was such a really fun journey, and there was so much hype. It was such a roller coaster ride because there was so much people who love us from all over the world. There are so many fan arts. When we saw their art, we were like mind blown, like how much effort they put to really create each of the art so that they can be part of the community. And a lot of them give us new ideas to make imaginary ones even better. And that's why we in our Discord we created a lot of activities, even encourage people to learn a magic trick, to do yoga together, to do things that could brighten up your life per se, and people love it.
Yeah.
And at the same time, with such hype, there was also a lot of fun. When people couldn't be involved in the project, they turn, become enemies and all that.
Sure.
That's where we saw the bright side and the dark side of the whole Web3 space. People either
Yeah.
they love you and they will show that they love you, and the next day they can hate you immediately. So it was
Right.
quite a mind blowing experience for us, but I think we managed to navigate that pretty well. I remember it was like 3 a.m. and one of our community director, Caleb, he called me at 3 a.m. and said, "Hey, there's a fight going on. We need to address that." And I was like, what just happened? Because we didn't sleep for 48 hours, and it was 3 a.m. He was calling me. He couldn't call me because my phone was silent. He came to my house, knocked on my door, and said, "Hey, we need to go to office now. Let's get started on the Twitter Spaces now." And I just went
Wow.
there. My head was blank, and then I didn't even know what happened, who fought us, who says what, and we just go on live immediately. And I was just trying to navigate around what's the situation,
Wow.
but it we try to address everything, and over time we realized that there's always two groups of people. There will be people who love you and support you all the way, and there will be people who try to bring you down. And what we can only focus on the positive, on putting efforts and time into the people that really matters, and those people who fight, we can try to address them. But if you put a lot of headspace on that people, then you are not building the business. And that's what we learned, how to prioritize our mindset into the right priorities to make things work. So there was a lot of delay in the production as well. I think like Clement has shared earlier, 3D animation never done before. We are the first who to release that. It was insane. I think you guys have done video. You know that in the beginning when we test our test renders, one frame of imaginary ones is like 1 minute, and one imaginary ones is 150 frames. So you can imagine one video will require 2.5 hours to finish. 8,880.
Yep.
How long are we going to take? So
Oh
so
my
that's
gosh. Yeah.
so that's where we had to brainstorm. What are some of the things that we do previously that can bring on board, or can we use technology to help accelerate the whole process? And thankfully we did, because in the process in the past we did something pretty similar in terms of how to permutate all the different animations, and we bring that knowledge back into creating imaginary ones, and it works.
Yeah.
And yeah, innovations always comes from tough times and tough situations like that.
Yeah.
And we managed to do it, even though there are some delays. We managed to pull it off. Or 8,888, we even doubled the frame rate into 60 frames per second instead of 30 frames per second. We even doubled the resolution from 1080 to I think 2000. Yeah, so
Yeah. 2K.
we are
Yeah.
always trying to push the limits, and we are so glad that we managed to do it. Yeah, so Clement.
Yeah. Yeah. So Clement, kind of fill in gaps. What are your perspective? What's your take on it from
Yeah.
that tweet to mint?
Yeah, I think like what David said, right? It's a lot of life journeys into just this 4 months of mean period from the start, because the things that we sort of like figure out along the way, I think we're all the time attack where everybody's like rushing us to launch imaginary wars, but we're like doing all the R&D and creating it at the same time. So a lot of stuff when we do, right, we're not sure if this is gonna be scalable, but we're like, okay, we're just gonna try it, and for us to be able to figure all this out really, really quickly was a case of like, all our life experience, like what David said, right? We did something similar before. Maybe we could use that technology to sort of like create. Because if anybody were to say like, I want to create an animation piece for within 4 months, a 3D animation piece of 8,888 is, and if you're gonna render it in a 3D software, it's not gonna be possible. That's the truth, right? And I think we learned so much like how to build a community, because like previously when we built a Web2 business, or even like doing stuff for clients, it's very different. It's very like I would say we have a community, but it wasn't like a community. Like, I feel like the whole Web3 community is very amplified. It's
Yeah.
extremely amplified. So whatever you do today, may you sometimes you don't know if this is a good decisions, and sometimes it could be a bad one. But then we are all humans, right? We may make bad decisions, but that's why I feel like we had to study a lot of like I'll say like even like hate beast, or
Yeah.
hate social, or like cool cats or whatsoever, right? And we had to study their strategy and everything to see like, okay, what are the mistakes that they've made before? Can we try to avoid it and try to make a better decision?
Yeah.
So and then again, sometimes we do make mistakes, and then a future project is gonna use us as a reference, and then it goes again and again, and that's how I feel like, as a community and the whole entire Web3 space, we can evolve. So, we're early, but I think at the end of the day, we're trying our best to make this space something different that the world has never seen before. Yeah,
And I
and
love
like
it.
you guys would have been here.
Matt, did
Yeah,
you
I
ask
love
this
yeah.
question yet?
So
Because it immediately popped into my mind. What mistakes did you make?
yeah, I
And
was going to ask. I have a
okay.
list of questions I'm going to break down, and I will get to that. First thing I wanted to say though is also thank you for sharing. First of all, thank you for sharing some of these insights. As you said, if people want to look back and understand this process, it's important to be able to listen to things like this and hear from founders who have gone through it and been on both sides of it. I also really love what you said, um, David, specifically when you were talking about how there's going to be people who are just going to FUD, they're not going to like it, and there's going to be people who are going to follow you forever, right? And you just had to focus your attention on how do we deliver value to the people who want to be a part of this. And I think that's an incredible viewpoint and way to look at this, because some people some projects just buckled under the pressure of the FUD, right? They just couldn't take it. They couldn't essentially read the bad press, but that's part of it. And as you saw, I mean, Mike knows it, being a mod for Hate Beast. I mean, you kidding me? You got 600,000 people on a server, 8,000 people are going to get a spot.
It was
Yeah.
Simple math,
wild,
folks.
bro.
Not everybody's going to get
I
this. It just is what it
yeah.
is.
We got up to
And people,
800,000 real people. Well, we kicked a
so
lot of bots out. I think the number was over 1 million, but we botted it down to around 700,000 to 800,000 people.
I mean, just wild, right? But to your point, how do you deliver with the people who want to be a part of it?
Mhm.
And that is a massive takeaway, because the truth is there is no answer to make 800,000 people happy about this. Somebody's going to miss a chance. Somebody's going to do something awesome they think should have earned them a spot or whatever it might have been, and they're not going to get it. And you just have to be able to focus through. You just can't make everybody happy. And by the way, that's true in business. You know what I'm saying? And so I really like that. And then to Mike's point, what I had written down is fails and lessons learned. So you took from some lessons from other projects. What's something? Tell us a moment through that process that was still something, if you could have done, looking back, you're like, ooh, we probably shouldn't have done that. What's like an example of maybe a mistake that you would look back and say you've learned from now but didn't know then?
Right. So one thing that I was in the hate base Discord too back then before I started Imaginary was, it was crazy, right? Everybody was typing warning, etc. So I wanted, when we launched Imaginary ones, we want to make a little bit of a difference in the sort of like a no grind culture. Where we tell everybody that as long even if you're on Discord, you're not gonna get allowed list, etc. Most of the stuff will come up from the Twitter giveaways, etc.
Right.
And that itself, like there was a lot of fan art that was going on and everything. And if like I think for us, it's difficult, like you say, it's difficult to sort of like choose who deserve an allow list, right? You
Yeah.
can't please everybody, and there is a time where people are hiring grinders to sort of like
Right.
or Discord, or if people are even paying artists to get like fan art out. And it was
Fiverr's
crazy.
actually real cheap, man. It doesn't cost much money.
Yeah, and we did. I mean, definitely, we did give allow list to maybe the wrong people that we could be blinded by these circumstances. But
Yeah.
I mean, if we could do it, I mean, we did run an art competition. I think there was like a fan art competition, and a lot of people got angry because they're like, oh, we're too focused on the art. What if I can't do art, etc. Are you guys gonna forget about me and everything? So I think those are just like, we are learning, uh, in a way how to please a more, I'll say, like a more generic crowd versus like
Yeah.
a very focused group.
Interesting.
So yeah, so that is like how our strategy is like, and I think we learned it the hard way from at the start. We
Right.
probably too focused on like the fan art, because like we thought that would be cool to see interpretation of arts, right? And then we could use it as to share it on social media, but
Right.
that may not be the best solution for
Right.
like a generic community. Yeah.
How about you, David? Anything you would do different? I'd love to hear from you as well.
Yeah, I think everything blew up so fast that it was quite a fast learning journey we have to take on.
Right.
And indeed, it was the first time, when we do our service business or when we do our tech business. Yes, we have a community. The community is like with 10,000 people, and then the comments wasn't so intense. But when we started imagining once, there are so much comments and so much opinions
Yeah.
that sometimes it clouded us. We want to address every single one of it. We want to go into it and make sure that everybody is well taken care of. We want to make sure that all the positivity is brought out. I want to make sure that everybody's heard. Their opinions are matter. And it becomes so tiring. We want everybody to be involved, and we realize that, wow, it's just not going to work.
Yeah.
It's just going to take out all our time just to address everybody.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and like what you shared, right? How can we give value to the right people and focus our time on that
Yeah.
instead of, focusing so much time on trying to address things that doesn't matter.
Right. Yeah, and what I heard is the conclusion I came to as well, being a moderator for HAPE, is isn't it funny that the term caring too much can actually be a bad thing? Because it is in this space, right? You can't, you care too much, it's just impossible, right? I was in the same situation, right? You have 800,000 people and you have 8,000 spots. What the hell are you supposed to do? Meanwhile, everyone in the world at that point is trying to scam their way into a pre-sale spot, because we're talking about life-changing money in parts of the world, right? We had to kick a hate mod out because he was farming hate list as a hate mod, right? So there was just a lot of fraud, tons of money, crazy hype, and you have to protect yourself. And I think he said it best, is you got to figure out how to concentrate on the right things. And it's very difficult when things are in a frenzy, right?
Yeah.
Maddie?
Yeah. No, 100%. And I think that, because of time, I want to move it forward a little bit, but I think that there's some amazing lessons that people can glean from that. And you took us through, this was during one of the most crazy times for NFTs as well, right? So, and you guys recognize that. Here's my question then, is moving forward. Well, actually, let me say this. What would you, if somebody was listening right now and they were thinking, you know what, I would love to be the next Imagineer. I would love to be, I want to start a hyped NFT project, and they're right now. Obviously, it's a different market. What would be your, like, in 60 seconds, what would be your piece of advice
Ooh,
to somebody? Because,
love
now
this
you know.
question.
Okay. I'll go first. I think like, definitely, I think I speak about this in one of my AMAs. Like, do not like be disheartened when the market is down right now. I mean, it's the best time to sort of like build a project.
Right.
And just the other thing is like, don't chase the hype, because like I see a lot of projects like there was a free mint era, right? You guys remember that? And then everybody started chasing the free mint, and then you came back with a mint price, etc. So never ever chase the hype. Like you do something that you believe in, and things will fall in place eventually. But if I chase this hype and the hype dies out, I'll be chasing another hype, and it's just an endless chase. So create a project that is really what you believe in. Is it gonna be good vibes? Is it gonna be like changing the world in any forms? Stick by it, and then if you truly believe it, the magic will happen. And the last thing is like if you're gonna build a project, start with having a strong community. And because if nobody knows you, it's gonna be tough, right? And
Right.
and start with building a community that people start trusting you, because trust is not like a case of a day. It takes a month or even a year, because of the things that you do or said. So build a community that will fight for you, because like when the FUD comes in or whatsoever, you actually rely a lot on your community to actually protect the project. Uh yeah, and the last thing is like probably be in the scene, because I see a lot of people are only around when the bull is back, but when there is in the bear market, they probably just kept quiet all the time. And that's just how you lose trust, right? And if you're not in the scene, you never know what's happening in the scene. Like what's hype today? What is Clodex the next big thing? Azuki the next big thing, etc. Why? Or so try to learn from different mistakes. Like there's so many memes happening every day, and people are talking about it. So try
Yeah.
try to get the good points and the bad points out of it, and probably you'll launch a pretty awesome project.
Yeah. How about you, Dave?
Yeah.
David?
Yeah, David.
I think there's no guarantee in your project being a full-blown project. Like, no matter how we see it, it's both like an art and science. There's an art side of things, there's a science part of things, and there's a bit of luck as well. And the timing is also very important.
Yes.
So I think for new founders, definitely, I think we saw a lot of projects like what Clement said. Oh, the bull market is here. Let's just create something and just launch it. But if you're able to be patient and really hang out in communities, meet people, not just in the community, but meet people in real life, and you understand what are they looking forward right now, what innovations are they excited about currently, and then you start to absorb a lot of be a sponge and absorb all the different ideas and all that, and slowly you can find your own innovations, and really to, I think also if you find that the time is right, just launch it. You don't have to be afraid of whether or is the right time now or is it tomorrow. It's just never a good time. Just let it out and let the world know, and let the world give you feedback and
Yep.
situation. You can launch the collections later, but you can launch your project. You can talk about projects now.
Right.
Keep marketing, keep
Right.
talking, and then you time your launch later on. It's fine. But
Right.
at least from the get-go, you can get a lot of great feedback and ideas and innovations along the way.
Yep. And then
love
the last one before we move there, our last part is just like, what does the future look like? And we can keep that relatively short. I'm really interested in this question though. What do you think imaginary ones would be launching today?
All right. So for us, we actually had just a launch with a brand, Hugo Boss.
Yes, I
And
remember that.
yeah, so that is I think one of the very big milestones that sort of like bridge the Web 2 and Web 3 for us, because we always believe like try to bridge the Web 2
Right. Right.
is key, bringing more liquidity to the space and more eyeballs. I think imaginary ones will carry on like doing things like that, and we created like Imaginary Junior, which is a YouTube content that's focused on kids, and probably like I think there's like 5 million views right now. So those are things that I think
Nice.
last year itself we've been building a lot of like pillars of foundation, and this year is more of the scaling part.
Yeah.
So like last year after our main, we focus on building the team, make sure that our team is strong enough, and to build things that make sense first before we scale up the project. So this
Right.
year's, in my perspective, is like how we can scale up the project in multiple folds here.
Yeah, I like that insight, but I
like
think think the question that I'm looking at is throw all of that away, right? Like you had a Hugo Boss mint, but that was based off of you had a successful mint before. What do you think? Do you believe obviously in your product, and do you think the mint would have gone the same, or do you think it would have gone differently within today's markets? Like say you had your idea, you posted your idea. What does it look like today when you've gone through kind of that pre-mint stage? Do you
Right.
think it would be drastically different, or just your comments on that?
Yep.
I think if we were to launch now, it would be a very different story.
Right.
That's why I feel timing is so important. In fact, we launched in late April. If we were to launch 1 or 2 weeks later, we might not be here anymore, because
Right.
the truth
Yeah.
is, after the day we mint, the bear market came.
Right.
It went
Yeah.
Ethereum went all the way down,
Right.
and a lot of people left. A lot of people get scared of the whole situation. Nobody will start to mint. Those things are very real. It's a very real situations that projects have to face, and similar to us is a very challenging times if you were to launch now. So that's why we are very thankful that even for Clement, for us, when we have the idea, we launch it, we start it, we let the community and the Twitter know about it, and then we start working really hard and double down
Right.
once we have hint of traction.
Yep.
So yeah, I think it really matters.
Yeah. And I love your answer, but I also love what you said and Clement said too, is you weren't also just blind to this and said, we're going to start a project because it's hype. You put your artwork out there on a Twitter that had no following, and you said, let's see what the world thinks. And obviously overnight they said, yeah, this is pretty cool.
The world spoke.
Yeah.
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 Awesome.
That's
No,
cool.
I
That's
was
really
just
cool.
interested in that because I think I think it's good to hear from you all your thoughts, Maddie.
Yeah. And then just my last real question is this: is so since the mint, you just described it, right? So we go into this bear market. How has that been? Because you had a successful mint, and now you have the launch with Hugo Boss, which is fantastic. I think this is important for people to hear because a lot of people just assumed the entire space went away. And I think it's really important that we have projects like you guys on display so people can go, whoa, okay, they're still here. They're still doing things. They still have a plan. Can you give us maybe just like what it's been since Mint, the stuff you guys have been thinking, how you've had to adapt given the market? Has there been any changes? Did you have to call any audibles? How did that work?
I think since mint, for us, so we started off before the mint was just like a few of us, me, David, Caleb, Greg, and Jerome. This is just like 5 of us trying to create something really, really big. But once the mint was over, we actually started to expand our team, right? Because we wanted to create an IP out of imaginary ones. Because we saw that there's a huge appeal to kids. When they see like the characters, and that is where we feel that we started building the different foundations that I was speaking about for the IP game. Everything that we built converges into the IP game because we want imaginary ones to be at a household name where and it's through a narrative of bubbles that we keep saying, and assuming that one day anybody would see a plush toy that has a body full of spheres, or even like kids playing bubbles out there, our dream is to be able for them to be able to imagine resonate to them that that could be imaginary ones, etc. So but that is like a extremely long game, right? It could be like 5-10 years, but we are here. We started off as a Web3 business, but that doesn't stop us to build a household name. So that's why we ventured into the kids content. We started working with Hugo Boss, which because I feel like through the fashion world itself, it's also there are a lot of eyeballs out there because once we partner with them, we started having our own stores in Singapore, and what resonates to me was like kids could, because we had these bubble characters as a storefront, and the kids when they see the characters, it's like they are in Candyland,
Right.
and to me it's like why we are doing what we do today. So I think we carry on building the IP no matter what. And the people that we hire we are on different teams, but we are all in the same focus in the long run to sort of like build this.
I love it.
This IP.
That's awesome.
Yeah, just to add
love it.
on, I think for imaginary ones, we always want to think about how can we make a positive impact in the world. And the week after we mint, the first question that we ask ourselves, how can we become a sustainable business?
Mm.
because it makes sense, right? We have people have entrusted us with some capital. We need to make it work. We cannot just slowly burn our money away, and then hopefully there are some other ways we can make revenue. We think of a business model that can immediately make Imaginary One sustainable, so that we can be here for the next 10, 20 years to come. And that's where we came about. And the other thing is IP. Our hypothesis is Imaginary Ones as a vibrant character is lovable by people, even people outside of Web3. So that's our hypothesis that we have, and we want to prove it. And that's why we work on partnerships like Hugo Boss, and we also created like a portable trampoline park with Imaginary Ones and all that. And we also displayed our Imaginary Ones in one of the largest LED in Singapore, one of the malls in Singapore.
Right.
And we display them. We went there, we see how people react. And we saw that, oh, indeed, really families, when they saw it, it's so vibrant. Children, they saw it, they want to take pictures with it, they want to touch it. So, and for Hugo Boss as well, because after the mint of Hugo Boss, we also have an activation of taking over the Marina Bay Sands Mall, one of the biggest mall in Singapore, to take over the whole store, to put in the Imaginary One's character, to put in the Imaginary One's story together with Hugo. And it was a great launch. There was a lot of PR, and people and shoppers around the mall, they came to the store, they stopped, they saw, and they take pictures with it. So these are very encouraging MVPs or traction that we saw that, wow,
Yeah.
really Imaginary Ones as a character really can touch people's life, even though they don't know about us, even
Right.
though they didn't know that we are Web3.
Yeah.
And that's why it strengthened our vision for this year to really see how we can spread the bubble, one bubble at a time, to bring smalls to billions of people, and to also leverage or learn from previous brand builders like Disney. We
Yeah.
always think of how can we have our own Disneyland in the future, a
I
bubble
love
land.
one bubble at a time. That's a great way to
Yeah.
say it. That's fantastic.
Love it. That's a
Yeah.
great tagline.
No, I think that's awesome. And to kind of wind this down, because we lied, we have 2 more questions for you. They're very softballs. Don't even worry about it. Shouldn't be stressing right now. Let's start with you, David, and give us the 2 to 3 minute pitch of what we can expect for if we just listen to this. Holy shit, Imaginary Ones is my NFT of choice. 2 to 3 minutes. What can we expect in the future? Let's say the next 6 to 12 months from Imaginary Ones. And don't reveal too much, because we know how much that screws you in the NFT world.
Yeah, I mean, we welcome everybody to be on this mission with us to make a positive impact in the world. For Imaginary Ones, that's really what we do. We will constantly tell a lot of stories, because that's how IP is being built. We want to build compelling stories so that people around the world can relate to us. And from there, we want to build a community that can, because I think one thing that we learn is the power of community is something that we did not do well in the past businesses, but with the power of community and ideas, we can leverage on all these different cultures to incorporate into Imaginary Ones, to tell stories to more and more people around the world. So we always see our inspiration is from Lego, from Disney. These are brands that have done really well for people of all ages. And similar to us, we saw that we want to build that kind of brand that people can relate on a daily basis. And that's why I think if anybody really wants to be on this mission with us, very welcome.
I love it. Clement, anything to add on that?
Yeah, we're here to create a positive world as much as we can, and through partnerships and everything, I think the Hugo partnership was focused on mental health and everything. The things that we do, we always strive to sort of make the world better, but it's just not the Web3, right? It could be in real life and everything. So I think that is what I feel the character stands for, Imaginary Ones. The color, the beautiful colors, and the various hates and everything. They all sort of resonate to somebody in certain ways, and we hope to be able to sort of tell that story across the period of time. And if anybody's welcome to join the journey for sure. And
Right.
let's bubble the world up together.
Yeah. And dude, a fascinating, amazing conversation. Way to good cap it off before I ask our questions. And I mean, honestly, I remember I'm gonna shoot it straight. I remember first seeing the project and I was like, oh my gosh, this is just a derivative of invisible friends. This is a cash grab type project. Little did I know, couldn't have been more wrong. You guys are genuine, awesome human beings trying to build something real. And as we know, that's a minority in the NFT space, unfortunately, because there's so much money to be made.
Yep.
People are just doing shitty things, man. It's so cool to hear your guys' story, and thank you so much for spending all this time. Last two questions. First one, we just peppered you for questions for 2 hours and 33 minutes. I appreciate your time in your busy world. We like to give the courtesy. Do you have any questions for Maddie or I? And if you don't, that is okay, but we like to throw that courtesy out. That's our first question.
What's the question again?
Do you have any
Do you
questions
have any
for
questions
us?
for us? We've been asking you questions this whole
Right.
time, so we figured, do you guys have any questions for us?
We just like to lend
Yeah.
that courtesy.
Yeah, I do
I-
have one. Sorry, David, go first.
I think it was 2.5 hours, but it didn't felt that long. I think you guys really did a really great job in terms of making your guests feel really comfortable and sharing in depth of everything, not just work, not just the future, but also as a human being. That's why I'm very interested in why is that so for both of you? Why do you feel so the need of connecting with humans, with people in such a depth?
It's a great question. No one's asked that question. It's a good question.
I can go.
You
or
can go first.
Sure. That's a fantastic question, and I think where that stems from is I've been fascinated with people and how they got to where they are, whether it be a success or a failure. I'm so impressed with the power of the mind and the power of interaction and networking. And we are social animals as human beings, right? And I have seen people with the right encouragement, right network, achieve unbelievable things, right? And you can see people without that, and it's difficult. But something that gets me about figuring out who people are is I think that especially in the social media, smartphone, laptop generation that we have found more and more ways to talk to each other, but we're not actually learning about each other anymore. Everything is very surface level, it's very surface level. And diving down is where we get these deep introspective thoughts, such as you realizing maybe I shouldn't be a dance instructor, right? You needed some time to think, right? And evaluate. And most people don't do that anymore. And I love being able to talk with people because for 2.5 hours, we've been able to talk with you guys and let people hear you didn't just wake up. It wasn't just you made a birthday wish, David, to have a successful NFT and suddenly here we are, right? There was a tremendous amount of effort and all of your lives that led to this culminating point. And that's to you guys. You guys said that, right? All of these things prepared you between the tech and learning the sales and doing the different, between the branding, the advertising, the broadcasting, put you into a unique position to launch a successful Web3 NFT product and then continue to build a brand right beyond that. And I think that that's fascinating. And when people hear that you didn't just fall off a log and it happened, it helps people understand that grind, the work, developing the skills, just like you said, learning how to dance, right? You have to learn these fundamentals and then you're ready to make art with it and be creative in how you do that. And I like exposing that because it's a reminder for me to keep going, but I think it's a really important lesson for a lot of people to see as well.
Yeah, a great question. I'll add on everything Maddie said. Two things for me. Literally my midlife crisis. I went through a major depressive order. It was not fun. When I got out of it, I just reset my life, right? And you quickly realize that the money, the fame, all of that stuff that you think is going to make you happy doesn't. And the one thing that I concentrated on was what would make me happy. And this makes me happy, man. I mean, learning about people and knowing that like this information tonight that we've shared over the last 2.5 hours, someone is going to listen to this and it's going to impact their life greatly, right? Because they resonate with playing Final Fantasy VII, or they resonate with being a dancer. They resonate with being an introvert. And now look, this introvert sold a multi-million-dollar NFT project and it's going to change their life. That is creating content to make a lasting impact in life. And that's all that there really is. You got friends, you got family, and you got how can you impact this world. And I think this is one of the greatest ways to do it. And, you know, our literally our mission statement is bringing back the lost art of genuine human connection. And we do really think this is going to be harder and harder as we get it, which is ironic, right? Because all we talk about is Web3 getting into the metaverse. But as we communicate more, we get more detached from true human connection.
Yeah.
That's my response.
Nice.
Well said.
Beautiful.
Thanks.
I really like that
Yeah.
because thanks for that, and thanks for creating this channel for founders like us to share our story.
Yeah.
And I think you guys have
sure.
amazing stories as well, especially in the times where the Web3 can be pretty brutal.
Right.
The questions that people ask could be, hey, when does the floor price fly? You know, when are you launching this? When are you launching that? It's a very practical, making money. A lot of questions are revolving around it. And sometimes we forgot about the real human connection.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so important.
Right.
But you guys really brought it out really, really well.
Thanks,
So
man.
so thank you for that.
Clement.
In fact,
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So I think what you shared, I think, reminds me of my mom. I think because my mom passed 2 months ago.
Oh man, I'm
It
sorry.
was a time when we launched our Hugo Boss
Yeah.
collection, IO X Hugo Boss collection, and it was the day of review, and finally at about 11 p.m. We reviewed the art. People love it, and the next minute, my dad called me. You know, mom is in hospital. You better come over to the hospital right now. And I went over. Our doctor said that okay, perhaps you had just a few days of time with her, and then I immediately I broke down for sure.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it reminds me, and the whole collection about Hugo X IO is about mental health. And at that point, I was struggling a bit because for the period of time we were working on mental health,
Right.
but I'm not taking care of my mental health.
Yes.
I was actually struggling inside. I was so tired. I was so stressful. I couldn't spend time with my mom, my parents, and it's like a lot of times we want to build something for other people, but we forgot to take care of ourselves.
Yeah.
And it reminds me that if we want to really go far and want to build imaginary ones 10, 20 years down the road, we really need to not just take care of other people, but also take care of ourselves, especially we are already mid-30s and not young anymore.
Right.
We really need to take care of the wholesome life that we have, because life is not 100% of our work, even though it's very important.
Yeah.
We need to really take care of other aspects of life too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Dude.
that's
Thank you so much for sharing that, because see right there, you just had a 2-minute clip that we're going to be able to cut up and someone's going to watch that and you're going to change their life. You don't realize, and we don't realize, the four of us here, actually how much that we do impacts other people. And I didn't think about that until I was a freaking mod and hate beast that, you know, a majority of this world doesn't know, but I have had thousands of people at this point tell me that I said something that I don't even remember saying. They're like, dude, you changed my life because of that one sentence. And it's that is just special. You know, we actually hold some really cool powers, and we have a really huge responsibility. So thank you for sharing that, man. Clement, do you have any question to add on to that, or can I move on to our last question, which David?
Yeah, I think my question was like, why midlife crisis? But you probably answered it.
Well,
you answered. Yeah,
why
you got
midlife
it.
crisis is I went through a major depressive order. Maddie went through his own midlife crisis, and we were grinding on a name, and Maddie just called me up one night and he was like, bro, I got it. And I was like, okay, what is it? And he's like, Midlife Crisis. And I was like, that's brilliant, because everybody's going to go through that. We're talking about connecting with people, and it's funny too, right? Like when I tell a lot of people like, oh, what's your company's name? Midlife Crisis, I usually get a chuckle. So that's good. That's good, because everyone knows what it means and everyone's going to go through it, and we're helping you to get here through it. It's just another thing that we're doing too. And so our last question is it's a little selfish, because we like to get feedback in real time. And you kind of touched on it, David, about your experience, but you've been on thousands of AMAs at this point, if hundreds, if not thousands. How is your experience here on Midlife compared to what you typically have done in this space? Feedback, good or bad? We'll start with you, David, and then Clement, you can chime in.
I think for me, there isn't anything I would like to change. I think you are two really amazing people, and you guys really go deep into people's lives and all that. I love that aspect of things. There isn't any other founders or other podcasters that does it the way you do. And I think what my feedback would be, I think you have amazing 3 hours, 2 hours content. I think perhaps we can work on chopping things down into small snippets a lot more. You can have so much content and spread it to all your social media. I think a lot of people will really love to see your content a lot more.
Yeah.
It's just that I think right now a lot of things are not searchable. For example, some of the content that I saw from your side is on Twitch.
Yeah.
But when I was searching for it, if I didn't know you're on Twitch, there's no way I can search your content.
Right.
Yeah. So I think these are things that we can optimize, and
Yeah.
that'll be so helpful.
Man,
Yeah.
I appreciate the feedback, and we're working hard on that, because literally we'll be able to cut this into 30, 40 video clips, and that's the problem we have, right? Is we don't, how it is cutting video together. Damn, it is not it's not an easy task. It's just time consuming. It's not that it's not easy, it's just time consuming. So I appreciate it, man. That's your response is literally what we're going for. So that couldn't have been a better feedback or thing to hear. So it means a lot to us. Clement, how about you?
Yeah, we just want to say thank you for having us, man. Because most of the time when we're on AMAs, we or even interviews, right, we don't really go that deep into what we share, because like most of the time, like we are it's either like it's a time crunch or whatsoever. But I think what I really appreciate a lot was like during the start of the meeting, you guys like say just take your time, just say whatever you need to. We're not in a hurry, and that itself is because like sometimes we haven't we want to unfold a story. It takes a lot of time. So
Right.
hopefully we appreciate it, and you guys are a really great host, man. You make us feel really comfortable to share the stuff that we do, and I feel like you guys should get a lot more traction, man. Just share it out everywhere.
We're gonna continue to do that. I mean, you
keep
are
doing it.
Dude, we're batting 1,000. You are still the 100% of people that come on the show agree with what you guys just said, and now we just gotta build the army to continue to get it out there. So I appreciate it so much. I'm gonna let Maddie say his final comments. I'll say mine, and then we'll call it a night.
Perfect. Yeah, well, it's funny because you said our conversations, you said we're good at asking the questions, but honestly, you guys made it easy today. I mean, when we would ask a question, you guys were so good at giving good insight and lessons that you had learned, and just thank you for expanding on your story. Because the truth is most of the time, we really got to pull a lot of stuff out of people, and we're good at that. That's what Mike and I enjoy doing. But when we went into Star Wars Episode 1 and you went into the things that motivated you, whatnot, it just came alive. And it was really, really cool because, to Mikey's point, the more of that stuff we get, somebody's going to be listening to this content somewhere around the world. And don't worry, we're going to get better at making sure we spread it out there. We're getting really good at that. We're creating a process. Right now, we're making the pies ourselves. We need to create a system of making pies, right? We're working on that. But we're going to get that out there, and somebody's going to see something. They're going to relate to, like Mike said, Final Fantasy VII or whatever it's going to be. And what's wild to me is that it may not be tomorrow, right? It could be 4 years from now, and they see a clip and it's like something clicks and it helps change the direction in a positive way for them. So we're going to keep doing that. Thank you so much for taking the time, man. I am so glad we had a chance to talk with you guys. This has been a fascinating breakdown because we got to also hear post mint what's going on with you guys. I think a lot of people tend to forget about things once the mint happens. And it's really important for people to see that these are thriving. Well, not everybody, but you guys particularly, you're thriving, you're doing well, you have a plan, you're running it like a business. I mean, just your statement on, okay, we got capital, people trusted us with this. We need to make sure that we run this like a business and make sure it's sustainable. How many people are doing that in the space, you know? And you guys did that because you've already been running a business together. You already had the trust, you already had the team. And I just think it's a very, very good combination for success. And so, yeah, this has been a wonderful conversation. I can't wait to keep this friendship going and keep following you guys as you guys have more and more success.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Beautiful, Maddie. And I'll just add, I'm still thoroughly impressed, one, that you even answered my DMs during the craze of your pre-mint. Because I'm just some random Discord dude that you probably think is just trying to, use you like everybody else. And then the fact that you remember me when I followed up, just goes to show like the character of person you are. That meant the world to me, and I'm so glad we were able to share this time. I'll reiterate, both of your stories were incredible. I'm insanely humbled by the stories that you said, the amount of time that you just took to spend with us, because I know you both are insanely busy. So I appreciate that. And I'll just reiterate what Maddie said. We look at this as the beginning of a friendship. We want to grow. We want to learn together. We will never stop doing that. We will always be here. We will cut some video content up for you so you can share. We'll share it on our socials. And I just can't wait to win together and continue to grow our relationship, because we're going to have a freaking blast doing it. I promise you that.
Yeah, it's gonna be a blast.
Hell
Looking
yeah.
forward, man.
And with that being said, people, the Midlife Crisis show is concluded for Tuesday. Thursday, we've got our buddies, Minimality. I can never say his name right. OG founder of Ethereal's first NFT project ever bought, but he's an OG skateboarder and NFT crypto guy in the space. Can't wait to have that. It's been a hell of a night. We love you all.